Hi, this is Perry Martin. I'm the DVD producer for Anchor Bay. Sit back and buckle your seatbelt. We're about to watch Dawn of the Dead.
Dun 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 dun.
This is G.Romero, sitting here with
Chris Romero. Hi.
and
T.Savini. And now, George, I want to ask you, this red carpet here now, is this a foreboding of how bloody you thought this movie was going to be?
No.
Or is it,
Hey, that's
is it
my brother right there.
well, that's Cliff Forrest.
Yeah.
It's Chris's brother.
It was
Where did
after
you-
this
little
movie
note
that he
that-
decided, no, he's not going to go in the film business.
Now that red carpet was there. Or was that
Ah.
wasn't this at QEX or was that some actual TV station?
You shot this at a local Pittsburgh station?
Yeah, I think it was the sister station to QED, or maybe PI. I don't know.
So the red carpet was just there.
It was there.
Great.
And that's Molly McCluskey there talking to Gaylen. She was also, I used to babysit her when she was a little girl. And
What's the TV
she
show
was a
that you
student
had?
at CMU then.
Yeah, she was the doobie on what was that show?
Romper Room.
Romper Room.
Right, she was,
George,
she was
here's your
Miss Molly.
cameo.
Oh, yeah,
Cameo.
there's George.
With his lucky scarf.
And soon, that's
We're
me.
going to see Chris. There she is. Now, you guys met on Martin, correct?
Well, we met before Martin,
did.
but that was our
Yeah.
first thing we did together, and Dawn was the second.
Were you married by the time you made this picture?
No.
By the time we made Dawn, yeah.
No, we weren't, George.
No, we weren't. That's right. We were not.
We didn't get married till after Night Riders.
We were together.
I see.
Okay, when's your anniversary?
August 23rd,
Riders.
1980. It was,
All right.
it was Night Riders.
Well, George, I know you've talked a lot about this movie many times and in many circumstances, but, there's still a lot of people out there who, are big fans of this film and want to know all about it. Let's talk a little bit about, this movie was made about 10 years after Night of the Living Dead. Let's start with that. What was your reaction to the phenomenal success of Night?
Well, we never really appreciated it nor got any money out of it because, when it first went out, it was neighborhoods and drive-in theaters, and then it sort of got rediscovered a couple of years into its life. Mm-hmm. And so we never really, got to appreciate the popularity, the early popularity that it had. Mm-hmm. And I was just, I would get invited into the Museum of Modern Art, and I was just sitting there blown away by the fact that, it had gotten that much success. And I didn't want to make a sequel or another one. And it was actually the guys that owned the shopping mall were socially friends of ours here in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. I went out for a tour of the mall one time, and they actually had these crawl spaces above the shops with civil defense supplies and all that. They were too small to shoot in, but they were there, and that's what gave me the idea. And then it was Dario Argento who called up from Italy and said, "Would you like to do a sequel?" And having seen them all and having gotten the idea, I said, "Yeah, okay, maybe I can do that." And he invited us to Rome, and I sat in this. They got us a little apartment. I sat in Rome and banged this out like over the course of 3 or 4 weeks, something like that. And Chris was saying, "You're crazy. What if Mark doesn't let you use the mall? We can't make this movie."
I kept saying to him, "George, what do you think you are, MGM?"
Well, so did you have it in your mind? Were you thinking about toying with the idea of, okay, it's now time to do a sequel to Dawn, or was it literally you just inspired by the mall and said, hey, this would be a good setting?
I was basically, I got the idea from the shopping mall,
Really?
and from the 80s, saying, gee, everybody's just rocking and dancing, maybe a comic book version, not so dark, of the, and I can sort of carry this on and keep the zombie thing going and maybe make another one someday, so it all just sort of came together, basically starting from seeing the shopping mall. And I thought, what a great idea it is for people to hole up in here and have everything,
Right.
and be able to sort of conquer it and then get beaten by other humans instead of by the zombies.
Well, with the success of Night, though, I'm guessing that you must have had some offers. People must have come to you, with the idea of doing a sequel.
It's amazing. They don't come out of the woodwork. Even today, I'm trying to promote a fourth one, and it's very hard. People, first of all, I think they're afraid of me. They're afraid of Tom. They're afraid of Gore. They're afraid of and
they should be.
It's not easy to come by a deal. I'm sure that if I got a deal now, we're talking to a couple of people about it, but I'm sure I'd have to wind up shooting several versions of it, or, and they still want to spend very little money on it, and because I have distinctive ideas about the way I want it to go. You know, I'm not pliable in terms of, well, how about if we made it about this or about that, you know?
Right.
And
right.
my idea is, well, it should be about some concept, not about, I don't care about the people. I mean, once you get the concept in mind, like my idea for the fourth one is ignoring the problem. But you try to pitch that as an idea, and people want to know, well, who are the characters? What's the story?
Right.
I don't care about that. I mean, you know, that's the stuff I don't care about.
You're dealing with the theme, basically.
Yeah, I'd rather deal with the theme. Yeah.
Right, and then the characterization just kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah, and I like the idea of not using stars and, you know, just because then you don't know what's going to happen to who. And, you know, that's not the kind of stuff that people are very willing to get behind financially.
Well, let me know if you need a stack of emails that I've been getting about people just waiting for this movie, the fourth one.
I know. Well, the script is, you know, it's out there, and I'm hoping that, you know, we got a bunch of nibbles, and now that Chainsaw made so much money, and you know, all these other horror things are going out and raking it in. There's a lot more interest now, so maybe it'll happen.
Where did you shoot this stuff, George?
We shot this in a project.
Well, except the
someplace,
roof shots right here. These roof shots are
right.
on the roof of George's old building where he worked,
Oh, really?
Fort Pitt Boulevard.
Latent Image.
Yeah.
My old company, the Latent Image. We went up to the roof and shot these things with Scotty, Jimmy Baffico, Wooly, and John Amplis is about to make an appearance. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, I know.
This is John.
What was his name, Rodriguez or something? Or?
Yeah. I don't know. Does he have a name?
I don't know. He plays a
Wait.
Puerto Rican.
Right.
There he is, right
There
there
he
with the
is.
wig on. And
Yeah.
Right.
the first headshot, the first
Right.
squib.
Was that your first headshot, Tom?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, on this picture? Or
On that
did-
guy,
oh,
on that.
really?
There's
Here,
John.
that's
Amplis.
John.
John
Right.
Amplis says
Yeah.
Martin.
I tell people that
Martin.
they watch the movie again just to see Martin
Right.
as a Puerto Rican, as Amplis, you know.
Tom, this movie was, I mean, on a scale greater than anything you'd ever attempted before.
Oh, yeah.
What did you have to do to prepare yourself for this?
Well, that's a good question. I was doing a play in North Carolina and got a telegram from George. Hey, we got another gig. Think of ways to kill people. So and I called him back. Yeah, well, it's a sequel to Night. It's Dawn of the Dead. So the script was pretty explicit about what it wanted. But with George, you always have the freedom to improvise. We'd go to George and say, how about if we take a screwdriver and drive it through somebody's ear? And,
But that was really impromptu. We'll tell that story
Yeah,
later.
we'll
Yeah.
get to that.
But that was an example of so many things, because we were sitting around thinking of ways to kill
Right,
people,
right.
because it was carte blanche. In the mall, we have 1,000 people we could kill if we wanted to.
It was
So
cartoon.
Now, where
Yeah.
did you shoot this stuff? Where is this location?
These were projects. I don't remember exactly where they were, but they were actual.
Oh, so depressing.
yeah, but now here's
No heat.
Just don't
We
want to
were
miss
so
this.
cold.
Right here when he kicks this open now.
Well, there you go.
Now that guy, that was a head cast of Gaylen Ross that we made.
Really?
The blonde star of this film, because the original script had her dying at the end, killing herself,
Yeah.
jumping up into helicopter blades. So that's
Right.
why we cast her head.
Uh-huh.
But I put an Afro wig on it and some hair and made her dark, and we decided let's blow somebody's head off. Another example of
People
us
can
thinking
go
of
to that,
stuff.
go to that shot and freeze frame it, and they'll be
Exactly.
Don't waste the money.
You know,
and the time.
Yeah, so we said, how can we blow somebody's head off? And
We really
George-
should say that moment is like a really defining, seminal moment in American horror films. I mean, after that, nothing was ever the same, and you knew that sitting there watching that when that happened in the theater. I mean, I remember the audience's reaction, and
they
nobody
said,
had seen
no.
anything.
Oh no! If this is the beginning of the
Yeah.
movie, what are they going to do to us toward the end of this
Right.
movie?
Yeah. Well, the other one is these bites coming up. They were sensational. Those were the ones they were my faves, Tom.
Well, that's what I was going to say. When you were talking about a seminal moment,
Yeah.
it's the actual bite for me on the set where the crew went nuts over this
Yeah.
and applauded,
Yeah.
and then come up to me and said, "Oh, now this is what this movie's going to be like," because when that bite happened. And here, that was an amputee. People sometimes miss that he's got no. We
Oh,
have,
is that
we have
right?
amputees,
This,
yeah.
this is the area where I was
Yeah,
so
see,
appalled.
yeah.
How so?
Well, because we rallied all these amputees to be in this, and I just said, "Oh, I can't believe you're doing this, George."
You felt that was a little exploitive, or
Yeah,
just?
well, I just thought it was over the top.
But now
Yeah.
they do it all the time.
Yeah, sure.
Do they
Yeah.
really?
Oh,
And those
amputees.
people,
Oh, yeah.
generally speaking, those people love participating.
Some of them
love
are
being
like
used.
make a living, like they're like extras,
Well, all the people seem
Part
to
of it,
enjoy
yeah.
it, but I was just so grossed out.
But the head blast and the bite coming up is that for the crew. That was the
who was
first
this
effect
guy?
we
He
did on the
was-
film.
Tommy Lafitte, isn't
That
it?
was Tommy Lafitte, right?
Yeah.
This guy come up here, but he was really...
Isn't that Tommy?
Yeah.
That's Tommy.
It's a great makeup on this guy too.
And he
with
was a
the-
good actor, really good actor.
with the open head wound. It's really
Yeah, and the blood color was so bad. This was the 3M we bought blood from the 3M company. If you know, it's like Xerox today,
right.
And it looked like melted crayons. But though it kind of helps the fantasy cartoon element.
I think
of
it
this
does.
thing.
It adds. I really think that maybe that helped us out a little bit, Tom. I mean, in terms
Yeah.
of it not being quite so.
Now, the
realistic.
scream-
It's much
this-
more comic booky.
Tell me if I'm wrong, but the scream when he bites her neck is a real scream from when he bit her arm.
Ugh.
Because he really bit her arm on the back of her arm, and the scream was on audio, and I think.
Is that
Oh.
that's what we
These
use?
are the
Oh,
ones
man.
that I think were
Oh.
did people in.
Yeah, well, that's the first
Believe
stuff
me.
we did.
Yeah.
This is the first stuff we did on the film. John Rice.
Yeah, we had to wait for the shopping mall. So
So you shot this stuff early before you ever went to the mall?
yeah, and then we had to wait for over Christmas, until the decorations were all down.
Mm-hmm.
And
You had a hiatus of a month or two?
we had a few weeks. There were a few weeks there.
Mm.
I don't remember.
But didn't we do some of this stuff in that Christmas break?
Maybe
I
we
don't
might
really
have.
remember.
Well, now
No,
they put
we
the
didn't.
Christmas...
I think we stopped right before Christmas,
Yeah.
and we couldn't go back until the middle of January or something like that.
Well, that would make sense because we would have been in the mall and
Yeah.
then left.
We may have done the crawl space between. I don't remember when we did the fake their apartment.
Yeah.
It was
the
a
crawl space-
grueling.
Funny how things-
What people need to know is how grueling this shoot was. It was, we couldn't work in the mall except after everybody was out, which was like 10:30 at night, and we'd have
Well,
to
there
work
were-
all night.
Yeah, but there were a couple of bars that were open till midnight and 1, so we had to.
Yeah,
in
the
the mall.
Brown Derby. Zombies, we would make zombies up and they would go to that bar. And then they would come back drunk zombies,
Well,
right?
which probably didn't hurt their performance, right? They
No,
started
maybe
around
not.
with a little more
But they would
believability.
yeah.
cause damage. I heard a story where the drunken zombie stole a golf cart and went driving around the mall and crashed it into a pillar or something.
Yeah, well, that was the big incident. That was the only one that really did any real damage.
But
we
would
were
think with
also lucky. A lot of things could have
Oh,
happened.
can you
on
imagine? It
this
was a
shoot.
motorcycle gang riding motorcycles
Yeah.
through the mall.
Yeah.
You could never do that today in a real
Yeah.
mall.
No.
In fact, you could never, it'd be hard to remake this film. There was so much
They're
time
doing
and
it.
energy. I mean, what this film was
Yeah.
would cost millions of dollars.
Yeah.
The
we
set
made,
alone, yeah.
and everybody worked for hardly any money,
Right.
and the time. I mean, it was just.
Everybody
I don't
was-
remember. We hardly slept. I mean, it was
But think about this. There are hardly any photos. There was no video cameras, handheld little camcorders back then, and hardly any photos because we were so busy making the movie. We weren't. Every now and then there'd be a happy snap. Someone take a snapshot.
But you'd
of
have
something.
a
that's
still
not true.
photographer wandering
Catherine-
around
Catherine-
capturing.
Richard- Yeah.
No, she was. You remembering this wrong? She was there every day, shooting constantly, but she controlled. They controlled all the photos, so that's why nobody else had
Yeah,
it.
that's why we don't have any. Is what
That's
I'm saying.
right.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
But
no
there
shots.
are
Tom's
photos.
talking about our own
yeah.
cameras.
Yes, we were just too busy making the movie.
Yeah.
But that's what it's like. Back then, for us, this was a Halloween celebration that lasted months. Every day was, for me anyway, and my crew, it was Halloween every day. Because you're making zombies or throwing costumes on and playing a part, or Tasso and I doing stunts. It was Halloween. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
How big a crew did you have on this picture?
Well, it was just me and eventually Tasso came in. But on big zombie days, we hired a bunch of local people, like even Joe Pilato would come out and do.
We'd have
just-
lineups of people getting made up to be zombies or the tail.
because all it was gray makeup. All we did was these zombies were just gray makeup, except for some special ones, and that's what I would do is the appliance.
So it would
stuff.
just be like a quick pancake makeup job and
On
push
most
them out
of them,
towards
yeah.
the set.
Most, yeah.
And when there were a lot of them like this, then we had like 6 people, just friends, coming in and slapping gray makeup on. Friends from school.
You can see when
You can see a lot when the.
we can see when the sleeves go up when they're reaching.
Yeah,
Every once in a while, you see a little bare spot up above,
Right,
close to the sleeve.
And sometimes they look blue, sometimes they look green, but they were always just gray. It had to do with the lighting or the timing or something.
Now, one of the leads in this, Scott Reiniger, is an old. I went to college with him.
Is that right?
Yeah, and he was. A lot of people in this
There he
movie
is.
are all our friends.
David Emge, well, a bunch of these guys, Chris and David and Scotty and Jay Stover, the zombie with the
Yeah.
gun.
Warner Shook.
Warner, I went to college
Warner,
with too.
Yeah, but he didn't work. But those guys all worked at a bar in New York called Lady Astor's. It was a restaurant
Owned by
with a bar.
another good friend of ours, Robert Ogden. He would always employ all actors, and so George would come and wait for me at Lady Astor's to get off work, and he got to be friends with all these people, and that's how David Emge and Scotty.
Yeah.
Now Ken Faree was in an audition, right?
He was an audition.
He's a New York actor.
Yeah, he was living in New York at the time.
How did you go about casting in general, George? I mean, what was your procedure?
Well, I would try to call up people that I knew if they could do it, and I always prefer to work that way with friends. But then there were, I didn't want to use, we needed an African American lead, and I wanted him to be strong and like Dwayne in Night of the Living. And we didn't know anybody at the time like that. This was another Pittsburgh guy.
I used to think he'd become a star.
Yeah,
he was so good looking.
Great looking guy. But
and he has a presence too. I mean,
he was.
really
He had a
fills the
really,
screen.
So we actually then we had a casting call, and that's how we met Gaylen too, right. at a casting session.
Now
We're still close
Gaylen
friends
told
with
me.
her.
Gaylen told me that she had totally fabricated her resume. That she had no experience as an actress whatsoever, and that you had no idea that she was so inexperienced.
That's probably right. we never were told
and
that.
that she was very scared.
It wouldn't have mattered. I mean, she didn't realize she didn't have to do that.
Right. Here's David.
Yeah.
They were all. I think they all.
Amplis worked at Lady Astor's for a while.
Yeah, that's right.
It was a bar. It was right across from the New York Public Theater, and there would, a lot of actors would hang out there, and a lot of Robert loved. He would hire actors. The typical story, how to work actors.
What's your philosophy, George, about casting against type or with type? I mean, do you try to get actors that embody the characters, or do you try to work against that a little bit?
I don't really have. I generally, when I write a script, I don't put too many physical descriptions in unless something is really important to the point that or to what the character is supposed to represent. So I generally don't do that. I just look for a good mix. Like for example, the tall and short thing that they joke about. Between Scotty and Ken, I mean, that was just accidental. I mean, it was just. I thought Scotty had this great sort of cadet type, efficient way about him, which was perfect for he's so cool,
right?
That he should be the guy that keeps it together, but he's the guy in the end that loses it. So I saw that, and I dug that, and went for that rather than just a macho. Somebody, there were a couple of people that read for that part too, that were much more, just sort of macho, gun 'em down, Jim Buffico type characters. And I said, no, it'd be neater to have a guy that looks really trim and together, and then have him and in control, and then have him lose it.
So you have somewhere to go dramatically, basically. You have like an arc.
Well, to that extent, yeah. But I generally don't. I don't particularly care. Except you do have to, when you're thinking about an ensemble like this, you have to keep in mind that okay, you want a nice mixture. It's like casting for Friends, I guess. You want them to be different enough, and
I take it
interesting as a group.
I take it these scenes here were shot in, I guess, what you would call poor man's process.
Poor man's process in a garage somewhere, right?
I remember that. Yeah.
We had the thing, and then we hung.
How did you?
Light seamless and then dark seamless for the night.
Did you bring a helicopter in or a fuselage? I mean, how did it?
It was actually the helicopter, and we may have shot it where the guy moored it, or I think
we did.
I think we did.
Yeah.
Now, how about all this military equipment that we're looking at here? Where did you get that?
We called up the National Guard. And they came out again.
Yeah, Zilla took care of all that.
Yeah,
she was really
really.
Yeah.
Good friend of ours who was production manager on this and a lot of the movies. She would.
Did you have to pay for anything? I mean,
no,
I don't think so.
No,
I mean, so the National Guard will just roll out the
say,
tanks.
We've got scenes with soldiers.
And we got all these people to volunteer to come out. It was incredible.
Really?
Yeah.
Couldn't do that today. Well, especially today with these guys.
That's what I'm
these
saying.
guys
This
are
movie
probably
could
all
never
over
be
in
made.
Iraq right now.
Yeah.
Now you've got some cops here too. I think in this scene. I mean, what about them? those costumed
the
actors?
paramedics were real.
Like
Yeah.
we've got some looks. Yeah, here we
Yeah,
go.
but-
These were all real Pittsburgh. You know,
Iron
Pittsburgh
City Beer.
was a great place to shoot that way. I mean, we used to get a tremendous amount of cooperation from the city, from
And people enjoyed just coming out. You know.
Yeah.
Well, it looked like they're having a party here. I don't think these characters quite get it. You know, what are you saying about human nature here, George? That this kind of devolves into a party.
Well, war is hell till it turns into a party.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Yeah, these
it's
guys
the
are-
brutality
these
of it. It's sort of like the posse scene at the end of Night. I mean, don't you think this would be going on if this phenomenon was really happening? Don't you think there'd be
You can only hunt so many deer. You know, they're out there. This is brand new targets for them.
Yeah.
It's
And,
funny. This movie really holds up. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
love this.
proof of that is that we're sitting
Jefferson
here today.
Street
you know?
Joe.
Yeah,
Joe
Ablin. I bought that gun from him actually.
Is that right?
I have it. Yeah.
That's a real gun.
Yeah. I bought it from him during Creep Show.
Why do you want that gun?
Huh?
Just as a souvenir?
We used it to blow off the zombie's head at the beginning. That shotgun.
That shot where the head blows off is it's a real live round fired into a head full of.
Oh, is
goop.
that right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, very interesting.
It wasn't.
this guy got the job
It wasn't
'cause
an
he was tall, right?
explosive.
Well, let's talk about this sequence here. I mean, where was this shot? Let's start with that.
So it was a little private airport up north or east somewhere. And this
near
was
Irwin?
Tom's idea. Yeah, out there somewhere.
Yeah, you can't. Didn't you
But
come up
this
with the
was-
idea and find the guy and say this is a good ad?
Well, yeah, Jim Crut. I went to college with Jim Crut, the guy that's going to get his head chopped off, and I thought of him because he had a real low forehead. I thought if I added to it, it wouldn't be adding that much. Then we'd get away with it. And it was perfectly round. But when you see him, it's square because as the day went on and the hair dried, he kind of fluffed up into the square Frankenstein look, which to some people telegraphs that something's going to happen. You know.
Right.
Which I didn't want. You know. But,
Right.
It's still this when this movie came out, that shot got applause.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, here's a guy getting his head chopped off with helicopter blades, and they're applauding. You know.
Well, I don't think anybody ever accused this movie of not delivering the goods.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, well, see, that's another thing that's very hard to do today. That's our homemade Foley, you know. I mean, that could have been, a lot of these things could have been a lot more startling if we had better sound effects. But it was all home brewed sound effects and everything else.
How are we doing with that ambient audio? Are we? How bad is it?
You want to go back?
I don't know if
That's gonna go on for a
there's
long
not
time,
much
I
we
think.
can do about that. We should say that we're sitting here in George
There's a
Romero's
leaf
living room, and it
blower.
sounds like the neighbors are doing it's gardening day.
They have
Yeah.
a garden crew there all the time.
But you know what? But that's part of the charm of listening to these things.
Yeah.
When I listen to commentaries, I feel like I'm sitting there with the people watching the movie with
Well,
them.
absolutely, and you know, George told me before the interview that he locked up a Buster in the dungeon in the cellar, and I was kind of disappointed in a way. You know,
Well, I'm happy to let him on.
I think people are coming to expect Buster to make his cameo appearance.
Yeah, because if you were sitting here in George's house watching this movie with him, Buster would be walking around, you know.
Barking?
Yeah.
I think Buster has barked on most of the other commentary
I think
tracks
he
that you
has.
guys have
Well, when
done.
we take a break, I'll let him up so no one will be disappointed.
Well, no, now we can't because we have a puppy and he just barks constantly, so it'd be rough. And there goes one of the telephones, so don't worry
Blink,
about that.
Rubber Hammer, and that's Bomba's. I think that's Nikki's dad.
Yeah, Nicky Tallo's dad.
You're
Yeah,
kidding, really?
Yeah.
yeah, that's who it was. And
That was
so-
just a blood bag on the end of that hammer, just to make some blood explode when it hits him.
Yeah.
Then we
And
later-
was it a real head, or I mean, is that
no, a real head, but a rubber
Real
hammer.
head, rubber
see.
hammer.
Then we
I
went
see.
back. Then we went in with some mortician's wax and created the wound just for that shot. Now this is my niece and nephew about to pop out of this closet.
Here he comes.
Dun.
Crud.
Now we're hiding behind the boxes with blood pumps up his pants legs.
He does look friendly.
And Gary Zeller runs off with a string, and that's what makes the top of his head unravel.
He's holding like a monofilament wire. There we go.
Exactly right. Yeah. And now we're pumping blood up through his pants legs. And
Now, what about that whirring above of the blades?
it's animated in later.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's the only way we could do it.
Because I mean, that looks really. I mean, that
But
really
that's,
sells
that,
effect.
how much did that cost, George? That's a
It was
pretty good
bupkis.
thing.
I mean, the
Really?
guys that it was. Remember, I forget who it was. We had to lock down the camera. And,
I mean, if anything
I
sells
think people
that
were
effect,
appalled
it's
at
that.
this. Well, these kids getting shot.
Yeah, but look at how George handled it. You don't see anything self-suggestive here.
Ken
You know
mentions
what's
this
going
moment
on.
is the one moment that really caused him,
Really?
anxiety. Yeah, he, didn't enjoy shooting the kids.
That shot, the frozen version of that shot with the stuff flying out of his back that makes all the
famous photo.
Famous photos. In and out. So comic book, cartoon. You need a little boop boop boop.
Now this guy was just floating around. This guy right here was just floating around. And George, I think you said we need a zombie to walk in the door, so we just grabbed this guy, and he became the logo.
Yeah,
of the movie.
Right. But it's a great
for both
makeup.
for this and Day. I mean, basically that head was the same head on both posters.
Death Studios does a mask of that guy that they sell.
Now I take it this is a makeup that you did.
Yeah, just a quick. The guy already had a shaved head. He was part of a band back then.
Mm-hmm.
It's all right. It's okay.
George, how much input did the Italians have on the script?
Very little.
So Dario didn't look over your shoulder at his house in Italy while you were writing.
No, not at all.
Mm-hmm.
And he liked it. I mean,
did they make any requests in terms of content? Kind of things that they wanted. Really?
Not at all.
They just left you alone?
No. Our deal was that he was allowed to. Part of the deal for the financing was that they were allowed. Meaning, Dario was allowed to cut the film for foreign language markets.
Mm-hmm.
Because he felt that there was too much humor in it. And basically, if you see his version, that's what he did. He cut out a lot of the sort of jokes and a lot of the ironies.
Mm-hmm.
And he tried to make it more flat out, straight ahead, full chi type
Right.
zombie flick.
Right.
And what happened is in a lot of territories in Europe, when they saw that version, it got really. The censors really came down all over it and asked for a lot more to be cut out.
Mm-hmm.
And because we sent then to the marketing team our version, and a lot of countries, when they saw the some of the humor and the irony and some of the more the social commentary stuff in it, went easier on it and actually got into some European markets. In longer versions.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there probably are in fact 10 versions lying around somewhere if you want to put out other DVDs.
Well, if you say that, George, that means we've got to come back and do this all over
That's
again.
all right. The Swedish version.
The box set, but they're all the same and just different content.
All right, here's
it's all. I mean, there was never any new footage that we shot for any of these versions. So.
I'm having a memory here. How did we get this parking lot to be so uncrowded? I know that was a big...
It's winter, it's probably Sunday.
No, this was a big thing trying to make this happen.
No, it was Sunday, and we did them on Sundays, and we were able to cordon off one of the big lot, or a couple of the big lots, because there are always, workers and other people that are parking there, so we had to cordon them off, but... And actually, every time I look at that shot, I think it's a mistake. There should have been some wrecked cars around. So, some cars just sort of randomly parked, not in the lines.
And his line kind of gets a laugh because back then he says, "What is this place?"
Right.
And it's a shopping mall, but that was one of there weren't that many shopping malls back then.
No, that was one of the first indoor malls.
I was at a film festival in Kansas where they were showing lots of films, but when they showed Dawn, the crowd was incredible. It was standing room only, big theater in Kansas, and then that's what brought it to my mind is they laughed when he said, "What is this
What
place?
is it?
Shopping
Yeah.
mall."
It's like some kind of...
I always love these shots looking down, the reveal of the mall.
And his line about this was an important place in their lives also gets a big laugh.
Right. George, when you were writing the script, did you have the satiric elements kind of in mind? Were they present there, or was that something that emerged later on?
No, they were. In this case, they were all there. A lot of them in Night were, accidental. Some of the dialogue was accidentally funny, but we were always sort of aware of it being, sort of about revolution or change. A revolutionary society. In this case, literally devouring the old society. But almost all of these lines were scripted. I know that I always leave room for ad libs or whatever, and I can't even remember right now which was which. But most of this stuff was there from day one.
But the perspective, the general attitude of kind of sending up well, it's not really the right word, but satirizing consumerism let's
Sure.
say. There was a theme that was present, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that was when I very first saw the shopping mall and got the idea. That was the first thing that hit me. The idea that, we want all this stuff, and getting it, not only isn't it enough, but somebody else wants it too. Aside from all the other, just the other themes that run through, lack of communications and inability to organize, and the things that I always work with, media, and ignoring the fact that there's a problem and just trying to live around it.
Well, go to a shopping mall today, and there are zombies walking around, lulled by the music, into shopping.
Now, is these scenes, were these shot in the mall as well? I mean, because this could
No.
easily have been a set or another location.
It was a set. Their apartment up there was a set that we built in the upper floor of a building downtown, and we had that little glass. The thing that they break to get in, that glass atrium or whatever, I don't know what you would call it.
Skylight.
We built it, had it at the mall. It was a freestanding unit. And then over here, actually, it existed here, right? And they duplicated it.
Yeah.
They duplicated it, and just we took the whole housing over to the mall and put it on the roof.
So at the mall, you're not looking down at anything. It's just a box with
I
the glass
see.
on top of it.
So this way you could control the elements.
Well, yeah, there was no space. As I say, the real spaces above the shops in the mall were low ceilings. It would have been impossible. These very small rooms would have been impossible to get cameras, or to work in there. So we rebuilt it, and we needed to control it for a long time, decorate it eventually, and So,
Well, in a room like this, there would be no advantage to shooting in the mall. You could.
No, you certainly don't need it. And I think the ductwork that they're crawling through later, that we built down at Fort Pitt Boulevard.
Anyone but us comes up some stairs, you guys.
Used the elevator at our
Elevator
office.
in your office.
Tom, you wear so many hats on this shoot. Did you know when you became involved that you were going to be doing stunts, that you were going to be acting?
No.
You were hired just as a makeup artist at first?
But then, it evolved into, my friend and I were thinking, why don't we throw some costumes on him and be in this movie too? And George let us, we had names, Blades and Sledge, because I had knives and he had a sledgehammer, later on when the gang comes. But stunts, it's like stuff needed to be done, and I think I said, I can do that.
Yeah.
I can fall off that balcony into, and it just added some goodies.
Did you have any experience as a stuntman before?
No, I was a gymnast, so and that kind of helped, Also, just a wild kid, and pretending and making things up, it's just let's get hit by a car, bring a trampoline out.
My memory is the day on the set is Tom would come over to George every day and say, okay, I have this idea.
Yeah.
And I think that if we did all of Tom's ideas, we would have been shooting still.
But that's the fun. The fun was inventing how to do this stuff, and then coming up with stuff, and George letting us do it. That's what made it Halloween. Every night, I had a sleeping bag that I would carry around with me, and if I wasn't doing stunts or playing a part or doing effects, I'd fall asleep under an escalator over here, and somebody come up, wake me up, and say, hey, Tom, it's time to do a stunt, or hey, Tom, let's try to, be Blades, or hey, we need some makeup done, and that's what the fun was.
How about a little music? What?
We have one stunt here that is almost like an outtake from Jackass, where you fall off the balcony. I guess you were injured at one point, right?
Oh yeah,
When you
though
stunted
when
there.
I was
fall.
rehearsing it, yeah.
Yeah.
Did it into cardboard boxes, right?
But I missed, yeah.
But missed. Overshot. Overzealous.
I can also remember that one. I know I could do it, George. Don't worry, I could go.
But we, 2 weeks later, we did do it, but we just had more boxes and
Right.
more,
Take
mattresses.
There's
Or Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. That was Clayton and Sharon back there.
Steven!
Chris, how would you define your role on this film?
Well, I had a title of assistant director, but I guess I was just, literally all I did was help coordinate everything. George, whatever he needed, I would go to run to every department and say, okay, you ready for this, or this is coming up, that kind of stuff.
Right.
That's Tasso.
In one of his many guises.
George, you're known for having a rather loose production style. Did you schedule?
What do you mean by that?
Did you schedule this? I mean, how did you determine from a day to day what you would be shooting? Did you do that? That kind of a traditional scheduling?
You have to do that.
Okay.
But it wasn't like, this was the early days that we just had a schedule for the next couple days. We never had like a day of days for the entire shoot at all.
Mm-hmm.
No, we were going on the fly. When can we get J.C. Penney's? When can we get in here? When can it was mostly that kind of thing.
I see.
But Chris and everybody else, they were running around ahead of us, wild sometimes, because we'd get an idea and we'd say, well, we need, like the screwdriver scene that's coming up in the Pennies was actually a really spur of the moment thing because there was a continuity error. I think Scotty has a jacket in one shot and then he doesn't have it. Or the other way, we had to justify how did he lose it.
I never knew that.
You didn't know that?
No, I thought we were just doing effects, just killing
that's right.
people.
So we had the zombie pull the jacket off. I think
we had to get back into Pennies at some point and just shoot that sequence with the zombie. And that zombie, by the way, is John Harrison, who is another Pittsburgher that we've worked with a lot, who's gone on to write and direct his own stuff. He recently did the Dune movies.
And you're a composer as well.
And has composed, Creepshow and Day of the Dead.
Right.
And that was John that got the screwdriver in the ear. So that was an impromptu thing. I said, how do we kill a guy? And Tom's, well, I got this idea. If I took a screwdriver and a soda straw.
And we made a retractable screwdriver and
right.
pumped blood through it. There's Jay Stover.
But this movie was so much energy and so much everybody working together and getting great ideas. And it couldn't ever happen today with the structure of having to organize every single day out of day. It could never happen again.
So much was spontaneity. And of course, always, it's the personal energies and the creativity of the people involved. And willingness, to just get with it and go with swing with the punches and just keep the energy level up. Nobody was walking through this, man. I mean, the energy is just unbelievable.
Well, you feel it
across the board. Yeah.
Just a vignette when they ran down the hallway before they got to the main mall. There, they passed a photo booth, where people could go in, you put a couple of bucks and get a strip of photos.
Right.
Our zombies would go in there and get their photos taken on those strips. And they would take the sample photos on the outside of the photo booth, under plexiglass, and replace the nice smiling husband or child with zombie photos. So the next day when the mall was open, with real customers, they'd pass that photo booth and there were these hideous things,
Here, this is the scene.
So that's the infamous jacket?
Yeah, that's it. He had the jacket earlier. And
that's right. Then
that's right. John unties it, or he gets loose when he's on the ground. I remember the scene.
Establish him acquiring it then.
Funny how this scene was.
No, we had to establish him losing it, I think.
That's right, because all of a sudden he was gone without it.
See, in that quick shot, it's gone.
I see.
And we let that shot go because. But I think there's other stuff. I forget exactly what it was, but we had to establish him losing it at some point.
Now, of course, since this scene, there are now those metal pegs in that escalator, so nobody can ever do that again.
Now, that was Scotty's idea, right?
I think it was.
Yeah, I mean, he said, look, why don't I just go roaring down there? Because it's such a great shot.
Oh,
it's fun. It sets up their characters. So.
But every escalator has those pegs now.
Yeah.
You think that's because of us?
I'd love to say that it was because of Tom Tech.
I'm sure other people tried it.
Oh, Tasso and I were sliding down there and standing on the rail going up, and security, surfing the damn thing, Because we owned the mall from 7 o'clock at night till 7 in the morning.
I take it you must have been supervised in some way, though, the stores or the...
I don't think so.
Really?
I don't remember.
So they just turned the keys over and
they were security guys, but they were over at craft services. So
right. I think there was just like one person being around who had the key to that store or something.
Right.
It was very, it was so
it was pretty
easy
loose.
But we owned this place, and it was great. And however, at 7 o'clock in the morning, you couldn't shoot any more sound takes because remember the Muzak would come on.
Right, yeah.
And nobody knew how to turn the Muzak off.
Really?
Right.
And then all the cardiac patients would be coming to walk in the morning and walk the mall. It was so funny.
Which is strange. It's a strange image. I mean, you probably should have dressed them and put makeup on them. And
No, but there
Well,
was a point where the 50 senior citizens or so were coming to a corner, and there were 375 zombies going to the same, and they met. And I think after that we did use some senior citizens as zombies.
If it maybe volunteered. I'm just lucky nobody had a heart attack.
We had a lot of luck on this film. A lot of luck. So many things could have gone wrong.
This is Warner Shook.
This is somebody else I went to college with.
Played Pippin in Knight Riders.
He's now a theater director, very successful.
Well, isn't he? He's also a Pulitzer Prize winner.
Yeah, he won a Pulitzer
Yeah.
Prize, right, for
Yeah.
Kentucky segment.
Now, where were these shot? These
This is actually in the boiler room.
Oh, so this is at the mall?
Isn't this the boiler room at the
Yeah,
mall?
it is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we didn't go in. This was there.
Is this a location then that you saw on your first tour and then incorporated into the script, or did you just
Yeah.
decide? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, I can't tell.
And although this scene, I think I wrote for Warner, right?
Yeah,
That's right. This was not in the original script.
Just to give him a.
because Warner, he wanted to have something special.
Okay.
That's right.
But yeah, so I wrote in this little thing, and we never had really enough time to make it as suspenseful as it should be. But it works for what it is. So I went with these ricochets instead of
Ricochets and shadows.
And shadows,
the Michael
yeah.
Curtiz shadow.
How fast did you have to work, George?
impossibly fast. Because I wanted a lot of that. I mean, if you look at this shot for number of setups and angles,
That's
and, coverage of things and simultaneous action when they're upstairs in the stairway and in the elevator later, and it's just all so intercut.
Really, we ran from shot to shot. I mean, everybody was constant. There was no such thing as hanging out coffee break.
Well, I think that's one of the things that really distinguishes your work from a lot of other films that are made on low budgets is that there is so much activity with the camera. There's so much cutting. Most low budget films don't have the time
You're right.
for that.
All George's films are just rich with detail.
Yeah.
Well, it's not so much it's not camera movement. I mean, this is what I call it the cover your ass style. Just shoot a lot of angles and get a lot of coverage. But that way you can change
Right.
dialogue, change content if you need to. But the number of setups that Mike was able to make, and of course the Augie, the guy that lit it, we wound up just filling them all with photo color temperature lighting, so that we really only had to augment here and there for close-ups.
So you actually changed the tubes in the
Changed
light
all
fixtures.
the tubes and the light fixtures,
And they remained that way throughout the day then.
They remained that way throughout the month.
I see.
And so that we were just pretty much able to shoot. Wide shots didn't, this is just basically available with probably some fill light behind the camera.
Wait, is that you?
John Amplis.
No, that was.
Well, that's Boris. It started off with John Amplis, then it became Boris the Dummy. Boris the Dummy had a lot of parts in this movie as well.
Right.
The Hare Krishna zombie really stands out.
That's wild. It was a wild choice.
Well, at that time, they were very popular. The whole Krishna. Oh, there's the photo thing.
Yeah. But it's a lot of it is just the angles and making sure that you cover the action and can tell so that you know what's going on. You basically visually telling the story, sort of the whole story, where people are, and what's going on.
Are you cutting in your head when you're filming?
Often, yeah. Yeah, I love to edit. I used to love to edit my own stuff, and so I always have editing in mind. Now it's coming up here, I think, where Scotty loses the jacket.
That's Maxine Lapidus.
Is that right?
That girl right there.
Oh, wow.
The close up there.
Yeah, that's John Harrison.
She's gone on to become a very successful TV writer, and I didn't know her when we shot this film, but we just recently saw her, and she said, "Oh, I was a zombie in Dawn of the Dead." There's.
So many times people walk up, hey, remember me? I was a zombie.
Oh, here comes. That's Harrison.
There's the
This is
shot.
another effect that
There's
really
the
grosses me.
shot.
I still can't watch this. Oh,
I know it's one that was so memorable.
And it was just off the,
Off the,
you know, it was
off the
like
cuff.
so look,
Two-
here come,
2
look. See,
hours
now he's
from-
taking his jacket off. So that's how we fix the continuity error.
I see.
So from concept to
From Hey
execution.
George, do you mind if we do this? From yes, it was 2 hours
Wow.
to creating it, you know, and then shooting it. Hey, we're ready. Okay, come over here with the camera.
Well, in the meantime, I'm going, aren't you ready yet? Little did I know what it would be like in the later years.
What do we do?
George, what kind of direction would you give these people, the zombies? How would you?
Well, you can't. I mean, because the moment if you do make any physical gesture, then you got 100 people doing that exact same gesture.
Mhm.
So you have to just say, be dead, you know. Just do your own private Frankenstein or whatever.
And I kind of remember you showing people how to walk like a zombie.
Well, but that's when I discovered that then everybody does exactly what you tell them to do.
Everybody drags a leg or holds an arm up or
Right.
does the straight arm bend.
Right. So it was, you know, it was much more just do what you want to do. But, and it's amazing how people just go right with it, you know? I mean, they really just sort of fall into it. Most of them are just sort of sluggish and walking slow, but you see some people who are being really creative with it. So the best zombie body language still is David Emge in this movie, I think. You know?
Yeah.
When he comes out of that elevator.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know how he, you know.
He really looks
it's
dead
a real,
and-
it's a Lon Chaney moment, the way
Yeah.
he twists his leg and.
Exactly. Miracle Man. He was like, something took over his body and the body was screwed up.
Right.
So whatever, he couldn't make parts move, you know.
Actually, David said that his inspiration was Chaney Jr. in the Mummy films.
Really?
Twisted hand and kind of straight
That's
reaching
right. That's
out.
exactly
and,
the way
you know,
he did walk, yeah.
Yeah, because he was a big horror buff.
You see, Turner Classic Movies has that collection out of
It was fabulous.
Is it? Do you
Yeah,
have it?
1,000 Patty bought it for me.
Yeah.
It's I've never seen Chaney like this.
Yeah.
It's called Lon Chaney, 1,000 Faces. It's in a DVD collection with
Right.
3 other movies. And
Yeah.
God, I
In
never.
a documentary. I saw the documentary. They ran it on TCM, and
Yeah.
they ran the films. Actually, it was
Yeah.
amazing.
Really?
I never
Good.
saw the one with sound. The
Unholy 3.
His only sound film.
Right.
That's an amazing film.
It's like I rediscovered him. I mean, I was already a fan of his. My son is named Lon because of how I felt about Lon Chaney. But that documentary, God, it's like I never knew how great an actor he was. He was so graceful. He was reminding me of Douglas Fairbanks.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now this elevator, inside the elevator, was actually down at our office at Late Image again.
That's late image for
This
sure.
is Late Image.
The shaft.
That's right. The shaft. The other elevator is actually the real elevator is at the mall, but the stuff in the shaft, we couldn't get up there, so we had to.
It's all right. We can get it off. You found it.
Well, it's intercutting. You know, that's the stuff that makes it whale. I think. You know, being able to being able to do the setups. Tom, you know, I mean, first of all, having access to the mall. So okay, cut to the hardware aisle instead of him saying, "Go get me a screwdriver." To be able to have the shot of Scotty going and getting the stuff,
Right.
and, you know, which then it plays in later when they have the run of the place, and you know we were able to use those locations. We were able to plan it to that extent. Okay, so we got the hardware aisle lit. Let's shoot that scene, and then we'll shoot a scene later in the montage. You know, so we were able to make little efficiencies that way work for us. But
You know, and all the actors were so game. I mean, they would just, you know, cooperate in whatever you needed, you know.
and they were good. I mean, keeping this is another location.
That's
This
not
is-
even
yeah.
there in the mall.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me, actually. When I saw this, I thought, well, I haven't seen that many malls with that many
gunshots.
firearms.
I know that was
But-
a stretch. It still bothers me
Yeah.
that they. Although I guess maybe somewhere in redneck country there is
Perhaps.
got to be a shopping mall with a gun. Well, they sell.
Well,
they
what's
sell
that big store?
guns.
Walmart or something? They were.
Well, yeah, don't they sell weapons at some of these big sporting goods stores? Don't they? Which might be in. I don't know.
Generally speaking, you don't see them in
Not
shopping
an
malls, but
exclusive
certainly
gun
not.
shop.
But then we've never been to Wyoming.
Yeah, it's true.
True.
But it's a stretch. But you know, hey,
Where
works.
was a local gun shop then?
Yeah, it was actually a gun shop.
Miles away, firearms unlimited.
Yeah.
And I think, didn't they jump off ladders or something to give the illusion they were coming through the floor?
Yes.
Or the ceiling shaft?
Yeah. Coming down through the ceiling grids. This is another scene that I've always been, even though a lot of people point to this scene and say, "Oh, it works so great, it's so scary." I was never satisfied. We never had quite enough time to really make it suspenseful in a,
What would you like to do
that
differently?
good. Oh, just more of a build-up, more things that go bump, instead of the guy just being right there.
I mean, building the suspense.
Building it up a little more. But we ran out of time. I mean, we were lucky that we got as much in as we did. I mean, even just these angles, it's just so energetic.
But you were shooting, what, 50 setups a day, maybe?
Yeah,
more?
40 or 50 a day.
Wow. That's incredible.
Mike was, he was great too. He was really energetic about it. Never complained about it.
Nobody did.
Nobody
Think about
did.
the lighting. I mean, you think how long it
Augie.
takes to light anything today and get it,
Obviously, you didn't storyboard or anything like that. But did you work from shot lists, or how did you determine what?
Shot list, basically, yeah. I still don't use storyboards. I make little, either overhead drawings of the set with just little arrows on them indicating where the camera goes and where the people are. And because I always like to leave it open for spontaneity. And as long as everybody knows what you need there that day. I need that rifle. I need this wardrobe. I need boom, boom, boom. You ought to be able to have some flexibility. Although these days, the way production is, it's impossible to work that way anymore. You really need to call it. When I did Bruiser, I really had to choreograph the whole film because we only had 30 days for the whole thing. And so if you look at that film as opposed to this film is mostly static camera, shot by shot by shot, and a lot of cutting. The energy comes from cutting. If you look at Bruiser, I had to choreograph and do long sequences. And just because we didn't have the time to make the setups.
But he's saying that you moved the camera more in the shots?
Oh, a lot more.
And that gave it the energy that you were after?
Yeah,
Do you have a preference in terms of visual style?
No.
It just depends on the project and what it calls for.
It depends on what it calls for and what you're doing. I actually love this. I love the static camera and with a lot of cutting and the energy coming from the cutting. But I love doing Bruiser. It was like a challenge, and it was also it was a great DP on Bruiser who also was really game and able to do it all, Adam Suika. But anyway, it's interesting. Most of the time making films, right, Tom? It's compromise. You're running against the wolf is at the door always, and you're just running and doing the best you can with whatever is at hand at that moment.
I keep hoping that George will get to make a movie someday when he can actually take the time to do it. Really have an idea and be able to really flow with it instead of having to think so fast on your feet. Although maybe that's what makes your work unique. I don't know.
What do you think about
I
that?
think that has a lot to do with it, doesn't it? I mean, it's one thing to be good.
But wouldn't it be
it's
nice
another
to get to see George actually get to have the time and the money to really make a movie exactly his vision?
Yeah.
And he's never had it.
Well, you're talking. Yeah, the problem is, you're talking. $100 million movie, even at that.
Well, that's not true, George.
It is. You jump up above 10, and you've got a million other pressures that come with it. You get stars involved, and you got more pressure that comes with that, and you have to go much, much further. It's sort of between 10 and 70 or 80. It's actually limiting, or with every dollar that comes another burden.
Because the minute and hour costs more.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I don't believe that. I think if you had $30 or $40 million to work with on a project, you could just, really achieve all kind of stuff.
Well, all right, fans, anyone out there with 30 or 40, send it in.
Yeah, right in to Anchor Bay.
And if you have a script. Well, it's funny. Rob Marshall was in town recently there was this Pittsburgh production summit trying to get more production in Pittsburgh. And he was saying when he did Chicago, it was only $45 million. And that, I would have sworn, would have been $120 million movie. So I guess you can do it at that level. But, I'm sure that also those stars were, weren't working for their usual salaries. And
Right. Probably percentages.
Well, that's the opportunity you need.
Well, any producers out there that want to take a chance on me, give us a call.
Look,
We're
he's
sitting-
very talented.
Let's talk a little bit more about the
That's Joe Shelby.
about the family atmosphere.
That's my
in this
dad.
set.
There's your father.
Oops, yeah, you're trying to get a word in there.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
See, when we get into these crowd scenes, you got to lay off.
This guy, now it's freezing out there, and
Yeah.
this little guy.
Is that right? So this is all your
That's
friends and
my
family,
mother.
basically.
Huh?
This is basically your friends and family.
Yeah, well,
When you
that
see the
mean,
crowd
who
scenes.
do you call when you?
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Who are you going to get to come out there?
That ice rink is no longer at the mall. People are always coming over to me and saying,
I
"Where's
know.
the ice rink? I went over to the mall and I didn't see the ice rink."
Really? Now that would
It's
be
the food court now.
Yeah,
really. Now see, that would be a location again that I would think you probably grabbed somewhere else, but that was actually at the mall.
that
Oh,
was
yeah?
there. They
Really?
used to
An
come
ice
in,
rink
hockey
at the
teams.
mall.
Huh.
Hockey.
Listen. I get sometimes fans will come into town. They'll call me and leave me a message on my phone. We're at the Monroeville Mall. We're listening to the Dawn of the Dead soundtrack as they go through the mall. But there's hardly anything left of, except for J.C. Penney's, of what the mall looked like back then.
Yeah. Richard France, he was in the Crazies. He was great for things like this. He was such an erudite. That was a big deal optical for us in those days, putting that binocular blind on there.
From the point of view of a viral disease, they're doing various laboratory tests to see if they can deal with it in that way, perhaps come up with some kind of a workable vaccine.
What was your question there?
Oh, I don't remember. I'm sure we'll get to it. Oh, I know. I was asking about the kind of the family atmosphere of the set. I mean, that's one of the things that George's movies are famous for, and that you really do kind of encourage people to make their own contribution. And you can see that, as you were just saying a moment earlier, with the zombies themselves, kind of leaving that up to them. Why do you prefer to work that way?
Well, I think that he put together people that have creative ideas. Why do you want to insist on, or why do you want to be tyrannical about anything? I think it breeds cooperation. It breeds this kind of a spirit, and everybody just gets much more involved that way.
However,
Yeah,
the last
exactly.
movie you made, Bruiser, we didn't really know anybody.
Oh,
We were
really?
in Canada. We had a whole crew that we really, we've never known
First
before.
people we'd worked with for the first time.
And, it worked out great.
Well, because I'm sure the same thing was clearly evident, and that is that people would, like George was just saying, to be tyrannical and have worked for tyrannical people, you can't wait to get off the set.
Right.
Yeah.
With this movie and with George's movies, you want to do stuff for him because he lets you, one, and the atmosphere and a family thing going on, it just makes you want to do stuff. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting around so enthusiastic about
Right.
ideas and coming in and saying,
Right.
he said, yes, okay, where's the screwdriver? That was the atmosphere,
And I just think you get more. I mean, people just put in that much more. They're more willing to put it. It's always grueling making a movie. I mean, it's never people that think it's sort of glamorous or whatever. They it's really sort of roll your sleeves up and get to work. So I just think it's much better to have a esprit de corps. And the stuff I'm not doing any precise Hitchcock type where I absolutely need to have anything a certain way, as
Right.
long as everybody knows that has the spirit of it and knows which way it's going.
Reality was a drag. We couldn't wait to get to the set. This is the tightrope. This was walking on the tightrope.
Well, there was no time for reality. In my memory, that's
No.
all it was. We just
You
Yeah,
went
there
to
was
sleep,
no-
you
there was
woke
no
up.
you got
life,
time to take a shower and maybe sleep for a
Yeah,
little while.
you
That's
spent
it. There
your
was
waking time there.
Right, or thinking about it.
I mean,
And that was the fun. I mean, and that's where the happiness was.
Yeah.
It's beginning something and finishing it. And
of course, that was
creating
before
it.
families and things. I mean, it's tough to do that.
Yeah, it's a lot. You couldn't. I mean, we were all young and dedicated. Really dedicated to what we were doing. So this truck lot was not within binocular sight of the mall. It was way further up, further east, and it was so we had to make the schlep again over there. I forget when in the series of things we did all these remote shoots. I don't remember whether some of them were at the Christmas break. It goes out of your head. You can't remember it. And this was all poor man's process.
Right.
Somebody rocking the truck, making
Right.
it look like it's moving. And it holds together, and the cast really makes it work. The other thing for them was so tough because we were bouncing around everywhere and trying to remember where they were and what.
Yeah, where we're going to be today.
Yeah. And we were lucky to get these helicopter shots. I mean, the pilot was really very cooperative guy, and so we were able to use this helicopter that was in the scenes for all the the flying, the interior cockpit shots, and for all of the aerial shots that we got.
I think I get hit. That's me.
Yeah, that's
I'm hit by a car. Oh, that's me again. I think every time a zombie gets hit by something, it's me.
You have a lot of zombies in this sequence. Did you ever wish that you had more? I mean, did you ever find yourself with a shortage of zombies?
Well, sure.
Yeah.
There was a shot, I don't know, about a dozen shots back where they're flying into the mall. That's Tasso again.
Yeah. That was Tasso 3 times.
Right.
He whacked him in the head, then he showed up live, and then I think he passed him later on.
And you can see that there's we had a cluster of zombies, and outside the ring of them, there's not enough. Here that I would have see.
Had to
It'd be
spread
nice
them out.
to double
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Or triplet.
Yeah.
CGI make 3,000 of them out there.
Right. Yeah, I don't know that we ever wanted. Well, I mean, it would have been nice to have more, but I don't know that we ever wanted to. Have it seem as though there were millions. Hordes.
Yeah, right. Why would they? Yeah.
You save that for the 4th movie.
But when you're born in Pittsburgh, one of the things you want to be when you grow up is a zombie in a Romero film.
Well, let's hope we can do another one in Pittsburgh and not have to shoot it somewhere else.
Prague.
Oh, really?
Prague.
Prague, New Zealand.
Are you seriously considering a location like that? I mean, is that...
No, what else to do
Well,
with what
no,
money?
it's always
Yeah.
dictated by the money,
Right.
and by the producers.
Right.
Canada. I mean, it's just impossible to. There is some legislation now in the works for some rebates and tax breaks for Pennsylvania. Hopefully, if that passes, it'll be a little easier to get.
Film should be
get
made
stuff
here. I
like that.
hope whoever makes it will realize that.
Yeah, actually wrote the 4th script for Pittsburgh.
Oh, you did?
And for another area owned by the
Same people.
Same
actually.
people. that-
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the Oxford Center. But it's you never know.
That's
Jeannie
Jeannie,
Jeffries.
my makeup assistant. But when he kills her, it's me with the blonde wig on.
All these little inside.
Jeannie, the pretty
Trick.
zombie.
Tom, on
Well,
a day
that's funny
like
because they blows her face off.
on a day like this, Tom, where you have lots of zombies working, how long would it take to get all those people made up? Ready for the shoot?
Whatever time he had.
Yeah, I guess-
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
whatever
just-
it takes.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess for the
it's
long
still
shots-
one shot at a time,
And for the long shots, I guess they wouldn't all need to be grayed down. You could have.
They were constantly needing to be retouched.
Really?
Because that was water-based makeup. It never dried. It was
Rub off.
always. Yeah. Now here, I think I've got a false face on her. I just yank it off toward the camera when he shoots her. I think it even hits Mike Gornick.
Yeah, yes it did.
Okay, there's a face.
Yeah, that didn't exactly look like Jeannie, though.
Well, for a microsecond.
Yeah, works for me.
Now I know when he kicks her out, it's really me flying out. Boom, that's me. Pads and
Oh,
everything.
yeah, I can see the pads. I can always see the pads.
Well, I
That
just
ain't
bought
Jeannie.
this. Have you ever seen this German book on Dawn of the Dead?
No.
It's a hardback German book full of pictures. I've never seen some of these. We bought 2 of them at the last Chiller show. And what they did is they circled things in it. I can't read German, so I don't know what it's about. But one of them is the stuff hanging out of my back when I come off the motorcycle. And they're saying it's newspapers when all it was just something to soften my fall when I fall off the motorcycle.
We got this by the ads.
Roger! Come on, man, get your head together. We got a lot of work to do.
Let's go, baby. Number 2.
In fact, they even circle when I get hit coming up with the truck hits me, they freeze framed just before the truck passes the trampoline. And they circle the trampoline.
Oh, is that right?
Because you can see it for a microsecond in the shot when I get hit by the...
Well, where is it? Bottom frame or?
It's bottom left of the
And you
frame.
can
Here,
see it?
it's going to
You
come
can
up
see
right
it?
here.
Even in 185.
Yeah,
you can
watch
see
when
it?
I fly backwards.
Yeah.
Boom. A microsecond,
you
just
have to
right
freeze
there.
frame
Boy,
it.
who would ever see that?
I know, but they're scrutinizing the
Yeah.
Japanese and
Right.
slowing it with slow motion. The truck wasn't even moving when it hit me. I just ran up and spit blood on the windshield.
There's a
There's a
creative effect.
Sparse. Well, hey, it works.
It's the simple things sometimes.
You know, they're staying in the parking stalls. You notice the zombies?
Yeah, they're
not in the traffic
They're
lane.
clearing a path. There's Boris the dummy getting run over.
They heard there were some trucks coming.
Yeah, they're smart enough to step out of the way.
Look, see, there's Boris getting run over again.
The boom.
Poor Boris.
Boris really got beat up in this one.
Did
This was the scene when I wrote this, and Chris was saying, "Are you kidding? You're going to have trucks blocking all of the entrances. How are you going to ever pull this off?"
Well, no, I think I really flipped when the motorcycle gang arrived. I said, George, what have you
Are
done?
you nuts?
well, at least you didn't blow up the mall.
No, well, we actually blew out, Gary Zeller blew out a bank of windows at one point. I think he said that put the wrong powder in.
Yeah.
Wrong. That was
Like a
our
grenade.
almost. We almost could have had some fatalities.
Well,
on
but
that.
remember what happened though? Catherine Rubenstein was shooting photos sitting on the floor.
Yeah.
And when the window broke, all the glass fell, and it fell around her. And she attributed it to some Jewish medal she was wearing.
Well, it was
You know,
really,
but-
she was
but
a
it-
lucky girl.
Yeah, but it really, all the glass fell like in a circle around her, and nothing hit her.
Well, that would be enough to make a believer out of you.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. I mean, because it was bad. That was
was
Tasso.
bad.
Tasso again getting shot.
All the guys that were game or wanted to do it, right? I'll do it.
I left my goddamn bag in the truck.
Well, Tom and Tasso were the special effects, or the stunt crew. They probably did what like 20 guys would have done, you know?
Yeah, we did. I think we did about 16 stunts together, combined. And swinging on. I mean,
Oh, probably more, man.
yeah,
Count 'em.
probably, yeah.
George,
Swinging-
were there any things that you wanted to do that you couldn't do for budgetary reasons or scheduling reasons?
You know, I don't remember anything that really shut us down.
Really?
I don't remember anything. I'm sure there were. I mean, I'd have to go back and look at the original script and see, well, did we do that? Were we able to do that? Or not? But I think we got, I mean, even some of the stuff that I never thought we'd be able to get.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember the car, when they take the car from the display. Was that in the script, or did we write that in because there were cars there? I don't remember. But
Happy accident.
yeah, I mean, it's
That's your friend.
What
Who?
friend?
I thought that was the Zapitas girl. you were talking
No,
no. I think she was just there for
no
that
one
one.
shot.
Donald Rubenstein is coming up.
Oh, I didn't know Donald was in this.
Yeah,
about. Yeah, he bites. I think he bites his leg, doesn't he?
yeah. He's another, Richard's brother, who's composed the music for a couple of things. No, I guess that wasn't him.
But Donald does come in here somewhere.
Yeah, he's around somewhere. I guess maybe when
That's one of
Scotty's getting out of the trunk.
One of the few photos that I have is of Donald.
Freezing. I mean, I want to tell you, up on that roof, and particularly under the prop wash of
Oh.
the helicopter, man, it was just, I've never been so cold in my
Really?
life.
Ah, the blood. It's so pink.
Scotty does such a nice job here, I think. I mean, it's like you really.
There's a lot to get done before you can afford to lose me.
You're so with him when you know he's gonna. You know he's gonna go.
Yeah, this is the beginning of the end.
Mhm.
Were you able to view dailies on this shoot?
No.
Oh, really?
I mean, we would go in, I don't know, on days off and see little bits of it, but no, we didn't have a setup. There was nothing set up out there. We had no flatbed, you know.
Well, that must have been kind of a
didn't cut it
handicap.
on a flatbed.
But that must have been kind of taking something of a risk if you're not able to view, you know, the footage and seeing if you're getting what you need to get.
Well, you know, there's no labs here, so we never could view it right away. It was always a couple day delay.
When it went to New York.
I had to go to New York and get flown out, and by the time it got flown back, it was, you know.
You were on something else.
Yeah.
However, you'd get a call, the guy, Joey V, right?
Yeah, and we always knew that it was good or that when something was bad, and if something was bad, they'd make a print and send it. And we'd check it out to see how bad it was. That's what Tom was talking about, where they just jumped off a ladder to make it look like they were jumping out of the ceiling. I mean, fans used to get, I used to actually love, we used to have library music on this. And I don't know, there are different versions of the jungle
music.
Jungle music, yeah, but I don't know. There are different versions of it. With some of it has some stuff from Goblin, and some of it has the old library jungle stuff, which always got a bigger cheer.
Oh, really? Let's talk a little bit about Goblin. Were you familiar with their work before they scored this picture?
Just through Dario. And, you know, again, he had, as part of his right to do the European version, you know, he went and recorded all the Goblin stuff and sent it over, and we had the right to use it if we wanted to or not, or use some of it, and that's what I wound up doing, was using some of it, because I just didn't want it to be that wall-to-wall sound, you know, and it really doesn't mix here and there, although it's, I don't know, I suppose it's part of the charm, some of that sort of sweet. There's Nicky Mastandrea. Getting shot down.
Nick has really gone on to have an incredible career out in Hollywood.
Yeah, assistant director.
And he's going to be directing his first feature.
Yeah, coming up. But so I'm not sure of the mix, you know, particularly some of the Sweetie Pie stuff, and when during Ken's escape, something like John Wayne music or something. But
that's a big aspect of kind of selling the satiric, you know, side of the story as well. You know, if it was just wall-to-wall Goblin, you would definitely lose that.
Yeah, I think you definitely do.
Certainly at the end.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, because the Mall Muzak does sound like Mall Muzak,
Yeah, it wasn't. It was actually, that's all library stuff too.
Oh.
But it was. You know, actually, Mike Gornick picked that stuff out. He used to do our post-production sound stuff. And we had our own little shop with, you know, our own dubbers and mixers and all that. And so he was. That was Bob Michelucci. Some fans may know him.
Did Nicky get his headshot yet?
Yeah, you missed. That's
not yet. No, he didn't shoot him because of the bars. It was too. He gets it later. Not very many people make the connection that, you know, I'll get you later, Charlie. And then he died.
And we gave Nicky a nice big head hit.
Yeah.
I think I put a tin can lid on his forehead and yanked that through the wax, you know. A huge hole appears in his head.
Hardware. Look here, man,
I know, shut up, will you?
Tom, I guess that this picture was really kind of a laboratory for you, or an educational experience.
Yeah, it was a big experiment. You know, it was like we had a guy who had an explosives license and was doing, you know, like real squibs, but he left us, you know, part of the way through, and I kind of took over, and that's where I learned, and I learned by doing it, you know, and watching him.
Gulf entrances is too risky.
Well, make it. You just be right.
But when the holes appear, I mean, it was like it was a very primitive. We were pulling sewing buttons off people's heads, you know, through mortician's wax. With blood tubing going behind the wax to have blood come out of it after the hole appeared.
You okay to start it? Okay, let's...
You know, it's the mother of invention, right? That process. I mean, you know what you want. Tom always had the skills to do it. We didn't have the money or the, you know.
Well, that was the fun, inventing how.
Yeah, inventing it. And that was before, you know, that, I mean, the materials, too, right, have come so far.
Exactly, yeah.
Little, you know, thin materials that you can put on
That's
a face.
right. Today it would be a very thin plastic appliance with two pathways, one for air, like we did in Adrian Barbeau later on in Creepshow.
Right.
A path for air, a path for blood.
And of course, there's been the big revolution with CGI now too. I mean, would that be something you would want to, a tool you would want to use, George, making a fourth zombie movie, or?
Well, I don't want to use it to rely on it. I much prefer the mechanical on the set stuff, and so I don't want to rely on it. I think you always know if it looks impossible that it is impossible, and something in the back of your mind says it's CG. And I also wouldn't want to have CG become the star. I much prefer it when it's used to augment, or like taking off Gary Sinise's leg, for example. Stuff like that. And it's not a dinosaur movie, so you don't need to have that was Joey Baffico. That was Jim's wife, getting her back of her head. I always liked that shot. The synchronizing was a problem, right? Getting the gun blast.
Well, once the barrel goes in front, I just press it whenever I wanted to.
Right.
There was never a.
No, there's never a gun flash there.
Listen to the sound and then try to sync that up. Although sometimes we did that in Day though, a lot, synchronizing the gun going off to the head getting hit. There's Tasso.
Tasso again.
And now there was a girl. That's the girl right there that looks like. And Tasso put her costume on and wig.
Now I remember this day. I was again one of my. I can't believe we're doing this modes. Try to wail on that car through the mall.
Chris, I'm wondering, what do you think of horror movies? What are your thoughts on the subject?
You know what? I don't watch too many.
She's a pansy. I'll speak for that. She's a pansy.
I love George's movies. I'll put it like that. Just but I'm
loyal.
not a horror.
It's
I'm
not a genre
film.
that you're a big fan of.
No. Just because I can't stand the blood and guts. And I also get really scared.
But this movie to me was never scary.
No,
when
it
people
wasn't.
come around and say, "God, I was never so scared," I couldn't sleep that night.
This is more of an amazing adventure, I think.
Much
with
more
with
comic book
Savini
fun.
gross out.
It's a gross out, but
the one thing that I keep hearing is the appealing thing about this is that they are in the shopping mall and they essentially own it. It's a big storehouse for them,
Right.
Target practice every now and then they have whatever they want, it's there.
Well, I think it is a big
And
fantasy
everybody would
for
love
people.
to have that,
yeah, it's a great fantasy. It works on that level. The characters, you're with the characters. You're really with Scotty and Ken and Gaylen and Flyboy, but.
I think the whole concept is really what made this film. I mean, the idea of people doing these outrageous things in this mall. And everything is, I just think it was...
Well, there's also an interesting element here where you've got the element of chaos kind of introduced in an environment that is normally very structured and controlled, and
Right.
It really, really works in that way.
Well, just when they've gotten their act together, not only are they not satisfied, but then the big turnaround, the big reversal of the bike gang showing up,
Yeah, these people kind of become very content.
Well, they become, sort of bored. I mean, they get it, and then what are we going to do now?
Right.
What's next?
What's next, or what?
What are we missing?
It doesn't work. There goes Nick.
There was Nick's tin can head hit.
But so it has that underlying, aside from just being an adventure and being, it has that underlying satire about relying too heavily.
I think there's also this incredible underlying fear of what happens when chaos, what will happen or what could happen, even with the terrorist thing, when things just
Break
go
down.
wrong. I mean, like, just a few little things that have happened around here. All of a sudden, a big storm's coming, you can't get water, you can't get this,
Right.
that store, and how fast things could go south.
Well, that's a recurring theme in a number of your films, not just the Dead films, but also the Crazies. Of course, George is sort of breakdown of society and,
Right.
and what happens afterwards. Well,
we're not, we don't run too smoothly, and when things go chaos,
And it's terrifying. I find that terrifying in life. Like, uh-oh.
I mean, think how things get messed up in real life, and and look at all the screw ups, in these military operations, and geez, how come we didn't know that, or how come we didn't expect that, and just in day-to-day life. I mean, screw ups on order a burger with nothing on it, and see if you get it.
Well, and
it's like everybody screws up all the time. So if things hit, if the shit ever hits the fan, forget about it.
and the authorities in your movies are generally, kind of unable to deal with the situation. You don't seem to have a lot of faith in institutions.
No, well, they're either ill-equipped, or not communicating, or have the wrong information, or again, it's like what happens in life, and I think that would be the way. Things would really break down at that point.
It's every man for himself.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then I say to myself, who's going to take care of us?
Yeah.
Well, the only people that would make it are the rednecks in this movie because, they know how to take care of themselves.
Right.
They can feed themselves. They can build fires. They can stay warm and eat and find water. And it's us spoiled by the supermarket.
Right.
Can't we do something? Can't we take him to a med unit?
I've seen half a dozen guys get bitten by those things. None of them lasted more than 3 days.
Peter, where are you?
Right here, Trooper.
We did it, didn't we? We whipped them, didn't we?
That's right, Raj.
Didn't we? Didn't we whip them?
Sure did, buddy. We whipped them. We whipped them good.
But I'm glad you mentioned CGI because, there's only so much. I love CGI when it's done well. If it's done badly, then... And I come from seeing stuff really there. Rick Baker's American Werewolf in London. That stuff was really there. When it's not really there, the audience has to change their mindset. They have to actually make an effort. They have to pretend that it's there, But as far as the zombies go, there's only so much you can do. With zombies, we always had that problem of just putting stuff on their face or tearing clothes or, making them a football player or something like that. There's only so much you can do with the zombies. And if they're going to walk around, if they have some brain, then there is a possibility of making some walk around where you can see a big hole through them. Or legless, like George said with Gary Sinise.
Right.
Or, can you imagine the guy in Day of the Dead, the guy with no face, just the brain? Imagine him walking around. That would, you can only do that with CGI.
Right.
So, like George said, just some key stuff, but not
to make it the star. Or
add a variety of what can be done to zombies that way.
It would be actually great fun to sit down and say, okay, we can do 8 things.
Yeah.
What should we do?
Right.
And then we come up with a list. That's where the fun would be again.
Yeah.
Knowing that you could do some CGI on somebody and half the head gone, like in AI. Those faces that were nothing behind them but robotics,
Right.
And they were real faces. Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator 3 at the end. But again, it's like George said, if you see that and you know it can't really be, then...
Right.
But it's the younger generation, though, that we're skipping that generation, where they're being trained to accept CGI like that,
Yeah.
Because it becomes part of the story for
that's
them.
what they want.
Not only in movies,
Exactly.
but in video games, and they expect that kind of fantastic. With me, I see that, and something flips in my mind. I say, oh,
Someone sitting at a computer pressing buttons.
You're not buying it, then it's taking you out of the movie, out of the moment.
It takes me out of the moment because my mind immediately says, oh, I can see how they did that, and then I'm gone. But maybe that is just me. I mean, maybe there's no. But I don't know. I guess I'm an old-fashioned guy. Give me the rubber suit,
Yeah, me too. But when it's done well, like in The Mummy, the depth of damage can never be done with makeup. The bug crawling out and him
Yeah.
You never know.
No, you can't. But there's something about it that just rings. I don't know, exploitive or Hey, I mean, it's like writing science fiction literature. I guess if you can do it, if you can think it up and execute it, great. Go ahead with it. But I don't aspire. Let me put it that way. I mean, I don't get ideas based on that. I don't want to go and do that just because it can be done. I'd rather use it in the context of an existing story idea, and use it where it's an enhancement.
And the opposite of that is what's wrong with certain movies that you see today, where they do gear to that and aspire to that. How can we blow somebody's mind? More fireworks, Story suffers, but
It becomes all about the effect itself.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so much of the stuff that you see is. This was fun doing this montage. Well, fun. I guess it's hard to say fun. It was grueling, but it was fun to bounce around and get ideas.
Fun in the cutting room, probably.
Fun. Yeah, it was great fun. Well, it was fun doing it.
That's it, isn't it? In the cutting room, I mean, you're the master puzzle maker. You create the pieces to the puzzle, and then the fun is putting that puzzle together.
Yeah.
This has to be one of the most widely imitated movies of the last 20, 30 years.
When you say zombie movie, this is the movie.
Absolutely.
Everybody thinks of. It's despite 28 Days, which weren't zombies anyway.
Right.
They were just crazy people. But this still is the zombie movie.
There's no question about that. I'm just wondering if all these imitations, George, have helped you or hurt you in terms of doing another picture.
I don't think they do. Well, always when when there are too many on the market, it's always harder to convince somebody to do one. The people that have been talking to me about a fourth one always say, well, it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. We want your fourth one.
Right.
So maybe I have an advantage that way, but definitely the marketplace is, when it gets overrun. There's another Australian thing called the Undead or something that's coming out. And I guess there's a lot of them. Then there's Richard Rubinstein's remake of Dawn, which I'm not involved with, but I know that that's coming out and seems as though it's going to have a big release. So I don't know. To remake this, I don't know. I haven't seen it. I don't know what the intention of it is. But the idea behind this is so much part of the times. The 80s. And I'm sorry, 70s.
70s, yeah.
These are the lines that get repeated all the time.
After the place, they don't know why. They just remember that they want to be in here.
What the hell are they?
They're us, that's all.
I said 80s before this was 70s.
Right.
What? Something like
The other one, the day was 80s.
Right.
But anyway, I don't know what it's going to be, but I can't imagine it having the same sort of impact, that this had then, because it meant more. The whole idea of them all. I don't even know if that's the central idea anymore of the remake. But I like to have a subtext in there as well, and not just an action adventure, or not just a roller coaster ride. But I don't think it doesn't help or hurt, and people will always come back to it, and it's I don't know. I guess in a weird way, it's become a genre because of these.
Well, George, I think George might be too humble but the answer to your question is that when you say does it help or hurt, I think it helps because that makes them all, according to the emails that I get and the conventions, the questions people ask, it's like, well, we can't wait now for, if only George would get his out here, They see these other ones, it's like, if only we had George's,
Right.
Well, could we ever get back there, Tom? I mean, could we ever do it? We need to find an angel who would just let us go off and play.
Well, that's what I mean. And you could never make, this movie was made for less than $1 million. It could not happen again today.
No,
that's the problem. If they say to George, you have to make a low budget, thing.
But then wouldn't you go into the kind of mode where before you're spending any money, you obviously you would have a script done, and you sit around and you create the whole thing on paper first, exactly what's going to happen, as if you're shooting it almost.
You would try to do that, but I did that. It's like I think what happened with Day. My script for the fourth film now is big. I mean, it's bigger than $3 million.
A lot bigger.
And so it's like what happened to us on Day of the Dead was I had a script that came in around 6 or 7, and the people who were financing it, even though they were very liberal and willing to release it unrated, they said we can't do it unrated if you're going to spend that kind of money. We'll give you $3 million, and if you can make a film for that amount, then we'll release it unrated. So I had to go back and really scale it down.
Yeah.
But I was able to do it. But those were the days before being members of the guilds. And,
it's a big difference. A lot of rules.
Is that true today, though? Wouldn't it be an ideal thing to have an unrated thing for the popularity and the publicity of that, or would you still be in trouble with?
Well, nobody wants to take that risk.
Yeah, studio's not going to
The
release
problem
something
is
like
there
that.
are no small, ballsy distributors anymore. They've all been bought up by one studio or another, or by the Mouse or somebody. They're all sort of owned by bigger companies, and it's hard to find somebody with the chutzpah to say, okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, there's no little releases anymore.
I think they
Tom.
could. I think they
everything's
should.
a big deal.
I think that they would make money on it easily. But it's all of those problems that get involved in it. I mean, the minimum scale that I my salary minimum scale under the guilds. We used to make movies for less money than that.
Yeah,
I would get a minimum scale as a writer director on a film today. So that automatically takes a bite out of it. And everybody else, and I have to work with TGA staff, and so everything builds up that way, and so it's impossible to just go out and be a complete maverick.
What's the lowest that you could work with figure-wise?
Well, who knows?
On the new Dead movie, you mean?
Yeah, and then on conceptually, can you even venture a guess?
Oh, I'm sure we could do something for $1.5 million. Nobody would make any money.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
then the other
but
thing
your
is,
script is no $1.5 million.
no, the script that I have out there now.
That's what I'm saying. What about this new?
Yeah.
How much do you think the new Dead movie?
I think 14.
Looks like-
it's 14, but it's
That's
to do
pocket
it
change
really.
for some
it
of
is.
these guys.
It is.
But to
pocket
do it
change.
really
It is.
great, you need even more. But in other words,
Yeah.
but it's not $750,000,
Right.
whatever
Yeah. No, I know it's not expensive, but they still are not willing to risk that amount of money without, some safety valves, which means either get a recognizable
Stars.
actor, or get it has to be R-rated or PG-13, or restrictions come with that. So the chances are, in the end, I may wind up having to scale the script way down and go back and do it simpler again. And I think again I could probably try to keep the intention of it. It's written big only because it's written in a downtown area, and it involves there's a lot of action sequences.
Hey, Tom, here's a question for you. Why did you decide to make Scotty's makeup white as opposed to
Well,
the gray?
it wasn't it's gray.
It's gray.
But the problem is, I had to. Every square inch of his face now has been stretched and latex applied, and dried, and then when you let go of each section, it bunches up into those wrinkles.
Right.
So his whole face is latex, which doesn't accept the makeup like skin did.
Oh.
So it's not intended to be white.
It's also
he's covered in gray, but it's just the camera. It's not picking
Right.
it up because it's on
It
latex.
doesn't work
Got
that
to
way.
remain
That's not how
logical.
people really are.
We've got to remain logical. We've got to. There's no choice. It has to be. It's that or the end.
Here it comes.
Oh, nice.
This was Augie's magic light, the lighting guy. This was
Big
his
box light.
favorite.
Well, this was his reward. I think he wanted to get to do that.
Yeah. Can I get to light something, please, instead of just splashing light everywhere? And we said, sure.
Because it's the smallest space probably that he had to light.
Right.
He'd light them all before this.
Enjoy. There's much written about the sequence there with the champagne cork.
Gaylen
Also-
looks so much like a mannequin in this. That was done on purpose, right?
Yeah. Well, there are those scenes of her in the mirror, and then there's the mannequins getting shot, the one that really looks like her.
Yeah.
Can't, Stephen, not now.
target practice at the mall.
Be real.
George, what part of making movies do you enjoy the most? What stage?
Watching them.
Is that right?
That takes no work at all, does it?
I mean, from scripting to post, what do you?
Well,
most
scripting
pleasure?
is always, you're always anxious because you don't know if it's ever actually going to get made, or if you're spinning your wheels or wasting your time or what. Shooting is always grueling, although it's always fun. I mean, if you have the theater bug in you, there are always moments on the set where it's, when you see something come to life that that it's exciting. But to me, the best part is later, editing. And then literally watching it, particularly the first time when you show it to an audience.
Well, that's either great or terrifying.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Do you
I
remember,
remember the first time we showed Night Riders. Oh, it was such a horrible event.
Oh, really?
Where was that?
It was in Los Angeles at some big opening night of a film festival. Remember that? And they couldn't hear it?
Yeah.
Right. That was the worst. We kept begging, trying to get the volume up.
I think I died
That was the first screening?
That was it. We flew out with
Yeah.
Didn't we
flew
fly
out.
together?
Yeah.
Carrying the print.
Yeah, David Vogel and I were in New York at the very last minute just trying to take the track that was already mixed and just ride the level on it to make it sound a little louder here and a little softer there and a little, just the already mixed track.
But this was a huge theater, lot, like 1,000 people. It was big.
Yeah.
And they...
And the critics.
There was no volume. I don't know what happened to the mix.
It was
Something
a film
screwed up.
festival.
Oh, it was horrible.
Yeah.
I felt like I died 1,000 deaths on it.
Yeah.
Well, this is really an audience movie. Do you remember the first time you saw this picture with an audience?
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about that.
In New York, actually, we didn't have a U.S. distributor, and Richard rented a theater.
Rivoli.
No, that was Sala's. This was uptown somewhere. Sala owned the Rivoli, and that's where it opened, I think.
That's what I was thinking of when it opened.
No, this was before we had distribution.
What was the reaction?
And he just took a little one-inch ad in the New York papers saying that we were going to have one screening, and the place was it was out on the street, mobbed, and the reaction was just bats. And it was the original version. It was the uncut. It was what people call my director's cut. It was my first U.S. English language cut, and the fans went nuts.
Well, they had never seen anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, this was. I mean, it did. I mean, people say, well, Knight really pushed the envelope, and that's where she really looks like.
Yeah.
That's where we're relating it to the. She's doing her Maryland, right, Gaylen?
No, I remember her sitting in the office at Leighton Image typing a letter to you about leaving this scene in. There was some thought about not putting this in. Do you remember that at all?
Oh, I kind of vaguely remember that.
Remember that?
You were going to cut it, and she was begging you to please leave it in for her.
I thought it was the other way around. I thought she was concerned about it being too, not PC, not.
I'll have to ask her about that. I thought she wanted it in.
Well, I want to hear more about the screening.
Yeah, tell me about
it was bats.
Yeah.
It was bats, and we couldn't get out of there for hours afterwards. And Salah Hassanen, who wound up distributing the film and financing, so Day and Creepshow and Night Riders, came to that screening. And it was that reaction, it was that audience reaction that made him say, I gotta have this. And I think they made a deal, that night, where he and Richard shook hands on it that night. He said, I want this movie.
Going into that screening, were you confident that you had a hit on your hands?
I knew that if we could get it in front of an audience, that the fans would ride it, and go with it. I didn't know that we'd get that much of a crowd. And you're always a little apprehensive, but boy, the moment, it's just right.
But I always wonder, who did make all the money on this movie? I mean, where did, never returned.
It didn't make huge. It didn't hit, the huge numbers that movies hit, because it was limited, because it was unrated. It was limited in terms of where it could be released, how it could be advertised, and all that. But, it
might come back on.
I know it did worldwide. It did. I don't know. It did a tremendous amount of business.
It was unrated, but there still was a flag on it about no one under 17 or something.
Right. Yeah. There was a little warning. But
that's funny.
I don't know if things were being policed in those days.
Thinking about I remember Dawn of the Dead, when we go to those screenings. It was so exciting, and we, what happened is you started thinking, okay, every movie's going to be like that. And then what happened to Day of the Dead? I can't even remember. It was no big.
Was not as It was not as popular at the outset. A
I
lot
don't
of
even
people now
remember a
have
big
come around
screen.
to it being the
you?
well, no, it didn't get the same kind of release either.
I don't even
Remember,
remember
it was 10 years later or whatever it was, or it was, and it was harder even to put out an unrated film, and it was not, the campaign was basically
It's
nothing.
funny. I'm clueless. I can't remember the campaign. Do you?
It didn't open strong.
Do you remember going to an opening? I don't even remember that.
No, I think we drove around, didn't we, looking for audiences, and there weren't any.
Really?
Ooh, maybe, ooh, this is coming
So you had
back.
kind of the opposite experience that you had
The
on this
opposite
picture.
experience, yeah. And it wasn't, people weren't as interested in it. It's funny because now it's become, people that like the series, I run into a lot of people who say it's their favorite, and it's become my favorite. I don't know why.
Well, you know why? Because you can see it now. When it first came out, it was so dark. The prints were so dark. Do you remember that?
Well, they've also calmed down and put them in perspective. Day is no longer the movie that they thought it was going to be another Dawn. It's a whole separate movie, and they can enjoy them individually.
And I think maybe perhaps you have some distance on your experience of making them that maybe
there
help
goes
enable
Blades.
you to
There's Blades.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I think Tom is right too, that people expected another Dawn. They expected it to just be a big, rousing kind of comic book thing. And I was just going for a different game.
Now, was this character, Tom, that you play, was that in the original script that you?
no.
So this was something that
We just
you built later
George
on.
let us go and play.
At what point did that happen? That's during
Tom
production.
is an actor at heart.
Well, once we knew that we had the bikers, it was somewhere in there.
Yeah. When the bikers started appearing, and they weren't actors,
Yeah.
Now we need to go in there and
Come on, us too.
put edge on this thing.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
So Rudy Ritchie. He was one of the original Image 10 guys.
So did you ultimately end up scripting dialogue for Tom, or Tom, did you improvise?
Loose. Were you guys ad-libbing all the way?
We were
or?
ad-libbing, and
Really?
and once we did that, George would do, like, there's some famous lines in this film, like Chocolate Man, or
Right, yeah.
that have survived, and they were just improvisations that George would let us do, and
Yeah.
and do a few takes of it,
Yeah. Yeah, or we'd find things along the way, or, and
Takes a certain amount of confidence, self-confidence to be able to improvise like that.
Well, Tom never lacked that.
No, Tom's great at that. And a lot of these guys were. Tasso, same way. And,
Yeah,
but for you as well,
We were going to Carnegie Mellon at the time as acting directing majors and doing this in class.
Right.
Before going to the set.
Yeah.
Not half of these people. There's a percentage of these people that are students from Carnegie Mellon that were in my class. That I'd say, hey, you want to be a zombie in this movie?
But I would think as a director, improvising on the set like that with a relatively key element, you don't really know what you're going to end up. You don't have the time to think it through like you would when you're writing a script.
No, but you know where you're going. You know what you need,
Don't
and,
let guys
and you're
wait.
and you're relying on what you.
That one biker was the best looking kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was his name, Jim?
You just have confidence that it's going to work out.
Well, you
and,
know where you're going, and you know that you're going to eventually get in the editing room with it. And this movie was a romp. I mean, this is not Streetcar Named Desire. It's
Right.
This is it. This is a moment. Seeing all those headlights
Yeah.
and bike lights heading toward the moon.
Who are all these bikers?
The pagans?
Bikers.
Yeah, it was
They're
actually
real
a-
bikers.
It's a real bike
Yeah.
gang.
Really?
Yep. And actually, wasn't it Bonnie Heinzman that knew the leader or somebody? Or
They're local bikers? It's a local
Yeah.
bike?
How'd you
Yeah.
get them? Because I often wonder how you got
Some,
the
Yeah.
pagans.
some local.
I
I
Somebody-
don't remember who contacted them, but they just showed up.
Yeah, and luckily,
We
God,
said we
they
need
had
a
their own
biker trip.
bikes.
I'm sure.
I
Zilla
mean,
was
they had their own
involved with it.
bikes. You could never. Where are you
Right.
going to get those? You're not going to buy those or build them, and it was like another benefit.
Right.
Back to your improvising thing, if George said, okay, run down this hallway, chase Ken, and, just yell at him or something, If the dialogue was stupid or didn't work, he'd say, no, don't, But obviously it fit.
Right.
yeah, you buy what works. And these guys, particularly Tom, is so great at it. Tasso, we had a bunch of people always around. Marty, Schiff,
Oh, yeah.
that were terrific at that kind of stuff. Basically, and so, and if you know where you're going with it,
Here's the explosion that almost killed
Right.
people, right?
that was Mickey Talon.
That was Boris again getting blown. I think that was the end of Boris.
Oh, really?
He got
The flame, I
got-
think.
He didn't survive the grenade.
He didn't
Well,
survive
he didn't
the
survive
fire.
the full body fire.
Yeah, well, that's asking a lot even of a dummy.
Yeah, he was made of wood and foam, so, but he lasted a while.
So I love that little montage there, and again, I remember, saying to Mike, no, I don't want one shot of the gate going down. I want to shoot their eyes through it, get 8 or 9 shots so we can sort of build it up. It was like with the weapons in the weapons store, it's just more effective if you can, build it. Hey, Tony Buba.
Local film documentary filmmaker. Well, look at these. See, look at these bikes. These guys brought these. These are props. That. Where else would you get
Yeah,
them?
that's great.
Here goes Tony.
So that's. But Tony. Okay, now Tony being in this is. No, they must have felt the same way. The bikers are here. Let's just throw on some clothes and be part of it.
Oh, sure.
Mexican hat. This is so eclectic.
Well, we also did some of that, Tom, because we knew that the bikers weren't going to be there all the time, and so we were able to shoot some of those scenes around.
I see.
And make it
I think
seem.
we only had a couple nights with them.
Yeah.
2 nights.
So we needed to fill in so that we could have faces that could, that we could shoot
Right.
some of the. Because Pat Buba in the Serapi over there.
When we
boy.
were shooting this scene, when the bikes come into the mall like that, you cannot imagine what that was like live with the sound.
all those
lights.
There is no way to experience it.
Really?
It was unbelievable.
I mean, there's one bike is loud, but all of them echoing off the enclosed hard marble surfaces.
It was
in there?
incredible. I
The
mean, it was
acoustics?
just an incredible. It was like one of those. It's the first time in my career when that happened. Something that you wrote happened, and all of a sudden it was bigger than life. And it was like, I don't know. It must be the feeling when you blow up the bridge on the River Kwai or something. It's like jeez, this is really happening. And
It was incredible, but it was in the film. You can't appreciate it that way.
you can never appreciate it. You could never recreate. I mean, today you could with THX or whatever. You get the sound, but you couldn't back then. The sound, of course, it was a problem because it set off, I think, every burglar alarm in the mall.
Oh, really?
The vibrations.
That's
Ben Barron.
That's Ben Barron. I thought that was Sarah Venable
Yeah.
there too.
So you must have been shooting MOS then, at least, or having to fix the audio later then.
We were shooting
Yeah.
MOS. Yeah, in fact, we all grabbed. I was shooting a little 2C myself. I got down behind the post because again, you could only run the action so many times. That's Randy Kovitz.
He was a cop
Oh,
at police the earlier dock scene.
Right.
He's also
You know
CMU.
what? That's Roy Frumkis, a teacher at School of
Roy
Engineering.
went on to
Right.
make a really significant
That was
documentary
Catherine.
on.
Catherine Culver.
Yeah, Document of the Dead.
Now this sequence was simplified a little bit.
Why the pie
correct?
fight?
Yeah,
Well,
pie
we talked
fight.
a
I
little
said,
about
wait, we got to have a pie fight in this.
Got
I mean,
pies.
this is getting so nuts. We got to have a pie fight. Squirting seltzer. I mean, go for it, man.
Because we got a captive audience of zombies here.
Yeah, I
that
can
we could play
remember.
with.
I can remember fighting with you about this. I said that is so stupid. I cannot believe you did.
There's
I think-
I
parties.
still look at this and think it's the most stupid thing I ever saw.
Well, we ran. I think is that why we cut ourselves out of it? You and I ran through that scene.
You can see
really?
a red. You can see
I
a
had
red blur. It's George in a Santa Claus outfit.
Right, and Chris was dressed as an elf.
I don't remember that. I blocked that.
Is that in a long version somewhere?
No,
More
I
of
don't think it existed.
Okay.
I think we decided who were those people. Bikers wouldn't have come dressed like that. Maybe it's the real Santa.
He was in mothballs
Taking
somewhere in the
refuge.
back room. Right. Santa showed up to have fun with the zombies.
And here we go. How about driving through the glass, Tom? You want to tell
Oh yeah,
that story?
that's coming up.
Oh no! I
Well,
really
we had an effects guy who said, I can make breakaway glass and we'll build a fake storefront. Okay. I watched them pour it on the mall floor and they raised it up and it was about 2 inches thick.
Well, no, it was the thing is it wasn't level. So at one end,
Ah, that's right.
at one end it was paper thin, and at the
Right.
other end it was like
It's coming up.
Forget 2 inches, it
I
was
was
like-
in full stunt pads except for one knee, and that is the only thing that got hurt on me was my knee crashing through this thick glass wall. George kept a big chunk of this breakaway glass in his office for a long time.
Yeah.
And when you walked, he'd beat on the table with it, trying to break this breakaway glass. It was like a steel girder, But they built it, and I drove a motor. If it wasn't for the motorcycle, I would not have gone through the glass. I would have bounced right off it.
You could have really been hurt.
It could have really been hurt.
You didn't think
But
to do a test
they
on
forgot
this?
they forgot to
No
they
time.
forgot to put the spirit level on the frame. It was supposed to be all sugar glass in the same thickness and easily breakable.
So you didn't have time to do a test on his
No,
his
one-
work?
No,
one
well, we
piece.
never
You
had
can't.
time to do a
You
test. Are you
can't.
kidding? Or the money
Here's
to make two
a
of them?
reverse shot of the machete and
Oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah, the famous
shot.
Lenny Lee's shot, reverse. But
That's probably one of the most, I don't know,
Well, there was
impressive
no-
images in horror films in the last
That
30
one,
years.
yeah.
I mean, you see that everywhere.
No, there was
And
no
that says
rehearsal.
horror movies of the
that's
70s,
one
you
that
know.
made the T-shirts.
Whoosh, weak.
I remember in Document of the Dead that we were shooting that sequence, I think, and he was rolling during. Roy Frumpkus made this film called Document of the Dead, shooting while we were some of it.
And what we were shooting the beheading scene there?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Wait, is that you, Tom?
No. Oh, the fat guy finally gets it. This guy was around a lot.
Yeah.
Well, he was game, huh?
This is... Oh, I'm going to go through the glass pretty soon here. Here it is.
Oh.
Now, it's funny because there was no rehearsal for that. So as I revved up the bike and hit the gas to head toward it, about 10 feet from hitting the glass, it was like an accident. Everything slowed down. And I was in slow motion.
Really?
And lived every microsecond of the experience.
Really?
You know?
Wow,
Until I hit, then we were back in fast motion.
Really?
Mentally, you know.
Too
Wow.
bad.
That's because you're
Too bad we
somehow
didn't
you
shoot it in slow
instinctively
motion.
What'd you say, Chris?
I said,
Probably somehow instinctively you knew something bad was going to happen.
Well, I didn't know. That was the fear. That was the unknown. But then when I landed and all the way hard was my knee, I was okay, you know.
what stopped the bike? I don't remember.
I think it just fell. It dropped like in Night Riders when, you know,
Oh.
after you get off it.
Because you went off the back.
Yeah.
I said I wish we had shot it in slow motion because you can't hardly see it happen.
Why didn't you think?
We didn't even need the glass there.
That's actually not an effect that you use much in your movies, if I recall, George, is slow-mo. Yeah.
No, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm not I don't know, maybe it's anti-Peckinpah or, I don't know. I just don't, I like it. I like things happening, in real.
Of course, you can't. That particular thing, you really can't
Here.
appreciate.
Here's when Marty buys it. Boom. Marty Schiff. We're whittling down. It's just me and Casso now. The complete bike gang. The whole bike gang.
Right.
Yeah, I think we only had those bikers 2 times, or maybe just the one night.
No, I don't remember. I think we had the whole gang only maybe one night, and then we had a few guys come back.
You concentrated their stuff when they were all there, like the outside escape and coming.
Right. Yeah. I think it was when we had the whole crew. I think it was just one night, and we were just running like crazy to get everything in.
Did you pay those guys, or did they just come down for the fun of it?
No, I think I got paid, but
Nothing.
A box lunch.
yeah,
Right,
it was,
right.
Now, okay, now this is in the when we go back to David Emge.
Oh, this is
It's in
this
the
when you got
elevator
hurt.
shaft.
This is the scene when you got hurt, right?
Well, not yet. No, this is after he shoots me. Tasso does a great swing off the balcony of that rope.
Right.
But when David goes up in the elevator shaft, I remember we shot this in your office, and you said, "How are we going to do the ricochets around David?" I says, "Well, I'm just going to take these clay pellets and use a slingshot and fire around him." What?
Right.
So you pointed to a hole and said, "Okay, shoot that hole," and I think it went bing right in the hole. Okay, and that's what we did. We shot. When these ricochets happen, it's just me with a slingshot shooting around him.
Good thing you didn't miss.
That was a great one, Tom, too.
Yeah, I was up in the elevator shaft and I just yanked a prophylactic tape off a blood-filled prophylactic. Just yanked the tape off his arm.
Now we're coming up on your stunt.
Coming up soon.
Yep. That girl down there was just hit down the floor below with a sledgehammer, and now she's upstairs. Whee!
It was so hard to believe that guy was a real biker, but he was this good-looking guy.
And Butchie here, Butchie was a fine artist.
Yeah.
When he
painted.
looks the part of the biker though.
The stuff in the crawl space, George, I'm guessing that maybe that's something that you built a little set for.
Yeah,
Or is
we
that-
did.
Yeah.
We did. We got down at our offices at Leighton Image. We built all the ductwork.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So you get the camera in there and
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
remove some of the walls.
When this guy gets it, okay, it's him, it's him. That's me.
That's him. See, what are you talking about? 16 stunts. I mean, let's count them. Let's go back and count them.
Well, you know what? We're having I wanted to figure out how many people I've killed in movies, but I don't want to figure it out myself. So we put a contest in my chat room, and now they're going to figure out how many people I've killed in movies, and they will do the research, and they will have a list, and then I will know
Well, how many people you killed or got killed?
how many I've killed with effects or as a character or
Right.
whatever.
How many you died for?
Yeah, that too.
What surprise?
But again,
Oh, I don't know. My web guy's figuring that out.
these, what makes this work is, I mean, because this was all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody stayed consistent and stayed with it, and it works. The situation, somehow we were able to describe the geography and what was happening, and make the story aspect of it play out so that you're with it and you know that it's
Well, even though the film has here we go. This is some of Tom's masterpieces.
This
Thinking-
is an area
thinking
where I
busy.
got all upset. I said, that's just
Yeah.
too gross, too much.
Remember, Franco Harris came out to do the slates on this, actually.
I remember him being there. I didn't know he did the slate.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
this,
were-
this is
we
when
were too
see,
busy.
this is the stuff I don't like. I can't do it.
Sweetbreads.
My guess is this is probably Buster's favorite moments, though.
Yeah, I think it is.
But even though the movie has, obviously strong satiric comment, the actors are play it very straight.
Oh,
very
straight. You
seriously.
have to. I mean, you have to. That's another T-shirt moment there.
And we were just starting to like Flyboy.
Yeah.
This again, a set that you built.
Yeah, this whole section of ducts, we just had basically a T, and we used the same corner to represent every corner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. And somehow we kept it all together, and everything, everything wound up flowing. And
One question that I did have for you, George, is: did you begin this movie with a feeling that you had to top yourself?
No, I haven't. I didn't do that. I mean, this was a romp. When we set about doing it, we felt unrestricted because, first of all, we knew that we had distribution in Italy, Germany, Japan, places where we weren't going to be censored, and we were just, flat out. We were able to really just do what we wanted to do with it. So we didn't feel restricted, and we weren't trying to. I mean, I suppose you're not trying to top yourself. You're not trying to top your last film in that sense. You're trying to go over the top. You're trying to, do what you can to really make it a gas, right, Tom? I mean, you're not like trying
That's
to.
not. Yeah, that's not an active mindset when you're doing the best you can with what you're actually doing, and what you're doing is topping you at the same time.
Yeah. But I never have. However, I know it happened with Day, and then it happened again with Bruiser, where people expect, because it's me, they expect, they come in with expectations and they want it, and they don't understand why you can't do it, or you can't do it on the budget, or or it's not what's on your mind.
Right.
This is a different movie, guys.
Right.
Look at it differently.
Right.
I think it happened with Night Riders to some extent. People said, "What,
Right.
Romero?"
Well, and that's really, to me, that's just a tragic thing, because all they want from George is blood and guts.
Yeah,
And,
right.
there's so many other things that he wants to do, and he's just been so limited from them. I mean, Bruiser was a really interesting, look into someone's life and frustrations, and I think really the distributors just sold it as a Romero horror film, and so people, when they screened it, they said, "What?"
Well, then they're just setting the audience up for disappointment.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah, I mean, even the poster with the gashes on it and the knife and all, that's not what it's about. I mean, it's
I don't think it got released, period. I went right to video.
Well, I know it got released. I've seen posters. I've seen European posters for it. People bring them around to be signed.
If it got released, it was only in Japan. unless you saw other than Japan.
Yeah. But it never got any sort of wide release.
Now here's David.
Yeah, David.
The
This
transformation.
is the best body language for a zombie. This is what I was saying about his Lon Chaney worth of his feet.
Yeah.
He almost falls here. I mean, it just and the way he's got that gun dangling. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just
It's not even holding it. It's just attached to him.
He's dead. He's all messed up.
right. He's dead. He's all messed up. That's right. That and Howard Sherman. Howard Sherman is the eloquent. Boy. I mean, in Day of the Dead, Bub he's just magnificent. I mean, he just plays that. It really is Karloff.
Yeah. It's really as good
Absolutely.
as that.
So, to create that sympathy, while at the same time being a zombie.
Yeah. Yeah, he's terrific.
But this walk that David did, he was always a very physical, Like, he doesn't even realize he's
Follow
got
me,
a gun.
guys.
Doesn't even realize the gun is hanging there. They're coming up.
Yeah, he's really great. I don't even know how he can move like that. How he manages to
Right.
stand and walk. This twisted
Look at
nose.
old Jay with that gun.
Yeah, Jay Stover. He's working it out too.
He's got to be the first zombie to.
This wall
put it
ripping.
This last.
we were able to get stuff to tie in, like just a little sequence of them building the wall and hiding this thing, and then it pays off here, and we were able to pull it all off. I mean, and again, it was just all energy. I'm sorry, Tom. You were
No,
saying-
that's quite all right. I was listening to you.
They're coming up.
So that the story makes sense in and around the action. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you sort of what's going on. You get a good
But
sense.
that was an intentional thing, though, right? I mean, the wall and everything.
Yeah, but being able to
Pull it off.
pull it
Right,
off,
yeah.
and get 8 shots of them building it. As
Yeah.
well, instead of just saying, well, let's build a wall, and then
Yeah.
you hear about it. We were able to actually show it, and again, it was just energy and being able to, Mike shooting as fast as he did, and
I don't want to go.
No one's done to this one. I was at the last Chiller show. I bought it's called Night of the Day of the Dawn of the Curse of the Bride of the Sun. And what they did is they erased the audio track of Night of the Living Dead.
Uh-huh.
They did a whole Woody Allen thing on it with
Oh, is that
ordering
right?
pizzas and things. But when David was walking down the hallway, I was thinking they haven't done that to this.
And is he pulled on a wire there, or did he do that?
No, he did that.
Really?
Yeah, well, you could, the problem with Night was that it, it's not protected, copyright.
Anybody can do anything they
So
want
you
with
can
it.
do whatever you want with it, whereas this would be. I mean, we'd have to make a deal with Richard to go do it.
George, we talked a little bit about the alternate ending that you'd had in the script, I guess. What
Right.
made you decide to go in a different direction?
Well, over the course of shooting it, I don't know. I liked the characters so much, and it was such a romp. It wasn't dark like Night of the Living. I originally wrote the ending to be like Night, to end tragically, which when I was scripting it, I said, well, that's the only way to go. Do the same thing. And by the time we had, it was just too much fun, and it was too much of a comic book, and I said, it's just ain't right.
I agree, and I think you were correct on that. I don't.
Yeah.
I remember you made the decision while we were shooting, toward the end of shooting.
Yeah.
You just announced we're going to have an upending.
Right.
Because we shot part of the alternate.
Yeah, we actually shot that. For a long time, I didn't remember that. And I used to say, no, we never shot anything. And then you reminded me, I think, that, we shot
The rooftop, yeah,
the
all the snow.
rooftop of Gaylen actually standing up into the blade. But we never,
Oh,
we
I
never
forgot
did the
that
effect.
too.
Yeah.
We never executed the effect because we made the decision earlier to Pasadena on it.
Yeah.
And what we had to do was go shoot Ken coming up and jumping onto the, catching onto the.
So he was originally
skids.
going to get.
He was going to shoot himself.
I see.
And she was going to kill herself. And I said, no, man, on this film it ain't right.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Even
was
though they're
just a
not sure what they're going to do.
No, but hey, so what?
Yeah, might as well give them some chance.
Yeah, there's what we could do, Tom. We could get them together on an island somewhere.
Anyway, it's still around.
Gaylen and Ken and David, yeah, they spent the last
Middle-aged.
25 years. Some mall in Jamaica.
Then they could run into Lori. And
Living on the other island.
Bill Cardille would have to be there too, you know.
A little war develops between the two groups,
There you
right?
go.
There's somebody on that island over there.
I like
You know someone's you're gonna get 1,000 emails now. Right? I've got the idea, I've written it for you.
that.
Here
Now
it
I'm
is.
suing.
This was when we just really froze doing these shots.
I always loved the music here.
Well, that's what I was saying. This big sort of John Wayne,
Mhm.
you know, library track. It was Jay's big moment. makes the right pick. I don't know. I think I might stick with the M16.
Yeah, and
You
that
got to be able to aim this one. The other one you can spray. I forget who did that stunt. Was that you?
No,
That wasn't you. Climbing on with the thing in the
Who
air.
could it have been?
I don't know. Somebody volunteered to jump on while it was hovering.
Well, who other than Savini would ever
Well,
have done
I
it?
have to watch it again because I don't remember it. Maybe it was Tasso.
I don't think.
There's something out there, folks. Anybody who remembers that's who did that stunt, climbing on the helicopter while it was lifting off. And here comes, and this is the big swell of also cornball music, but I loved it. And then of course the gonk coming up. This piece of music is called the gonk.
There it is. You know, that was an homage to Clockwork Orange, right?
Well, not really. We talked about it because
I
we
thought
said,
you
hey,
told me that all the time. Oh, yeah, I'm going to do this for.
Well, we shot it. We talked about it and shot it because we didn't create it. You know, we didn't set about doing it. It happened to be there.
a lot of people have said this movie changed their lives, and I'm wondering how it changed all of yours. George?
Well, just in its being remembered so fondly, and you know, and we get to see each other a lot, and we get to, you know, we got to meet Dario. I mean, it has, you know, it just has, and it has a tremendous, it had an effect on career and everything else.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, and it's wonderful to have made a film that has that kind of, you know, shelf life.
Tom, this certainly changed your life.
Well, I got Friday the 13th because of this movie. And that led to the splatter craze that I had so much to do with, you know. But this got me Friday the 13th, and those two together, you know, scripts just kept coming. Basically the same gore stuff, you know.
Looking back on the movie now, what do you guys think of it?
I think it works.
Oh, I
It
still
does
enjoy
hold up.
watching
I think it's
it, yeah.
very entertaining.
Yeah.
You know, you don't get sick of watching it. I mean, it really is fun to watch, and
There's so much. I mean, it's your old friends. It's the old mall, which was a friend
Right.
back then, too.
I
How much
really
has changed.
can't get over all the energy level in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, all the shots and
I mean, it really plays, and you can watch it over and over. And I'm happy that the story pokes through. I mean, you know, I keep coming back to that, so it works. You know, you have this fond dream that you could get back there and do it again. You know,
Okay, well, thank you all so
A
much
pleasure.
for being here today.
yeah, it's always fun.